Negroes, 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 do your duty.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well then, show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well then, stick to your word. And let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man, you're a worm, you're afraid of us, you're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.
We got a problem here? We got a problem here? We got a problem, nigga? What else?
Y'all want to see a dead body?
You can kill all the black folks you want, baby, but you will not kill the freedom of black folks. It's coming. We're going to get it. We fought every one of your damn lousy wars, baby, and you give us nothing. Now the war is going to be here, but we're going to be free. Now you kill you want to, but we kill too.
I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit black people. No.
Such a famous line, such a famous line at this point. Good afternoon. Anybody that's going to check out the Villager on Deck on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter looks like the link just dropped out. I don't know exactly what's going on. Twitter's been funky ever since oh boy took over. So, I might just stop even streaming over to Twitter. I only just, I get a few views on the live end and a few playback commentary, but I don't really need it. And I don't like the X thing anyway. I don't know exactly what happened to the bird. and why it went to the X. I've never really dug into that. I don't care. But yeah, absolutely. Good Friday afternoon, about 12:30. I know some of y'all gonna say I was late, but I did reschedule. I edited and I rescheduled it from the original time. I just needed a little bit more time to get some things together, to get myself together. Wasn't feeling real well this morning, and I probably could have bypassed doing it, but once I put it in the queue, as they say, I really want to get it done. There's really no reason for me not to get it done, and I can actually come on up. I don't really need to hide behind the thumbnail. I'm here, and I'm going to speak on a few things today that happened at the Ypsilanti Township board meeting a few days ago. Very interesting event. It was very interesting. I actually was waiting for them to upload the audio as they normally do on their YouTube channel, and I waited too late. And then finally, I just put a call in to see if I could get it because I wanted some of the audio that was for the public commentary on Tuesday, just to give you an example for those who weren't there, because there were a lot of people there. I mean, there was about 200 people there. I think there's like 205 seats in the room where they actually have the board meeting. And easily there was 200 people there. Everybody didn't sit, you know, people were actually, you know, along the wall in the hallway, but there were definitely 200 people there. And predominantly, you know, American blacks, or what I would assume to be American blacks. There might have been some folk that, you know, come from some other territories, you know, but predominantly American blacks, and, you know, a few Caucasian people, came out in support of the individuals, you know, who are on the docket. So we're going to talk about today. And I don't really need this to be a rah-rah session. It's not about something that I want to put out there as propaganda. It's really just what I saw, and it's just the facts of what I saw. So anybody that's going to check this out, if you get offended, it's probably going to be based on me telling the truth about something that you did or that you were a part of on Tuesday. If you don't get offended, but you just understand, then, you know, much appreciated. But feel free to, if you are live and you want to chime in on the chat, I have no problem with that. Appreciate the like. Absolutely like this video, share this video. It's necessary because I think we took another step forward only to take a small step backwards with that meeting. You know, with that meeting, there was a lot of good that came out of it, but then there were a few things that really could have been left out of it. And I want to talk about those things, you know, because people get to talking around here and they think they know, but they don't really know, or they hear certain things from me or other people and they think they know the story, but they really don't know the story. So I really want to kind of break that down today. Just using that as a preface for the stream. I mean, because I think, you know, and I use the term blindsided because that's the story of the week, right? That's the story of the week, the last couple of weeks, I guess. This whole story about the Tuohys taking advantage of former NFL player Michael Oher. I think that some people have taken advantage of people in Ypsilanti Township. And, you know, they have used their leadership wrongfully. So it kind of rides right into what the Tuohys probably did over these last several years. Because I'm not saying they did or they didn't do, but what it looks like they did, they misled not only the brother, but people around him. And now their back's up against the wall because it looks like he's suing for some monetary receipts, which I don't know exactly how the numbers stack up there, but he probably wouldn't have put a number figure on it had he felt like he wasn't cheated out of something. And it doesn't sound like he's financially unfit. He's looking for his just due out of it. You know, he's not suing for 300 million. You know, I think the suit is like 15 million. And then he's probably going to want some other things along the lines. But the reason that I brought this forth about this board meeting that happened on Tuesday was simply because I'm tired of seeing us do business the wrong way. Let me get those words together. I'm tired of seeing us do business the wrong way. There is a right time and a place for everything. There is. And some of the things that happened on Tuesday, they could have stayed at home. They could have stayed at home. They didn't necessarily need to come into that edifice and be presented, in that meeting. And I don't blame most of the people that actually got on the mic, because most of the people that got on the mic, they spoke ignorantly. And I'm not saying that what they said was ignorant, but they spoke ignorantly because they didn't have the proper knowledge as to why they were there. So let me lay out a few, situations. When I use the term ignorantly today, it probably won't be based on the person's intellect. It's going to be based on their lack of knowledge. And that was unfortunate that some people came up and they stood and they supported the group that was in there, that was on the docket. And I have nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with coming in to support anybody. And you're definitely never going to see me go against Black unity. I mean, if we want to just put it, just bottleneck it into something, Black unity. But where you will see me come back at it is how we unify. How we unify has to be proper, or it will just be looked at as a joke. We can't just gather, we can't just congregate and have it mean nothing, have it absolutely mean zero. So I don't believe that was the case. I believe it indeed meant something for people to come out. It meant something for the group that was being supported. It meant something to the township to see that type of representation from township residents, from city residents, from people from Ann Arbor and all over the place, to come support this group. So, that was a good thing. You're never going to hear me talk down about Black unity, because if it indeed is Black unity, I would have to believe that it's on a positive front. Okay. I don't consider negative acts, even though they might be presented by a collective of people, to be Black unity. Black unity has a what do I want to use? What's the word I want to use? There's a crest for Black unity. That really wasn't the word, but I don't look at Black unity as things when we're talking about below board tactics and things like that. And I thought that the people that came out that day, they actually meant well. 90, like I said, 90% of the people who spoke, maybe even higher than that, who spoke, meant well. So I definitely don't want to say anything negative against them. Where I kind of turned the corner with it was the people who did know better. The people who did know better either didn't speak, or they spoke, I don't know, weirdness. And, I want to talk a little bit about that, because misguided people generally comes from misguided leadership. And your leadership can start in your home. If you've got misguided parents as a child, chances are you're going to be misguided as a child. You may learn some things outside the home, but chances are you are going to be a misguided child, possibly into your teen years, maybe into adulthood, if you are raised by misguided folk. So appreciate the folks coming in and out of the room. Looks like some people are coming in purposely and they're staying, and some people are coming in, maybe they're just seeing what it is and they don't want to hear exactly what I'm saying, so they're keeping it going. So I appreciate you either way. The YouTube link is in the, if you're looking at this video in one of the political pages or neighborhood pages, as it were, on Facebook, the YouTube link is in those pages if you want to go to the YouTube link. If you have not subscribed to The Villager on Deck, you just oughta, because that's where I am now. Appreciate the second like there. Anybody that is going to hear me today, they'll hear probably some things that they've never heard from me. I'm going to actually run back a part of a stream so it can give context to where I am today. Also, where I was, let's say yesterday, as recent as July of 2022, because I've got to clear up some misnomers. I got to clear up some history that has been spoken fraudulently against me And I just need to do that. I need to get that out because I think it'll clear some things up for folks, and we'll move forward. So with that being said, we're about 15 minutes in, which probably puts us about 11 minutes in on the dialogue because we've got the intro. Like I said, I just got those those audio drops. I don't know if I'll be able to play any of the audio, if I'll be able to skip around in it, but I hopefully I'll be able to gather some so people can, if you weren't at the meeting on Tuesday, you'll be able to get a little bit, just a snippet of really what went on and what was said. And I'll try to get that up at least by the stream's end. But where I want to start with this, because the subject of Tuesday was a group called the Supreme Felons. Most people have heard me talk about this group one way or another. A group that was really the brainchild of individuals who work for the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Office. A lot of people know that now. Some people don't. And I'm not even throwing shade at that today until I'm going to have to. I'm gonna have to throw shade at it, and it's not to be a negative spirit, but it's just to show why we are misaligned. It makes no difference to me whether someone likes the fact, whether I'm calling it shade, but it is indeed shade. It's shedding light on something, and I know people are going to look at it as a negative, or I could have left that part out, but that's part of our problems a lot of times, is that we leave parts out. And leaving parts out brings us to a level of ignorance. So once again, not even speaking about an individual, just speaking about having general ignorance. But I want to find, before we jump into, really deep into the meeting, I want to find this clip, and I'm going to let it run probably a little bit before and a little bit after, so you can kind of see where I was just over a year ago. And it's going to concern the Supreme Felons, because most people who know me have known me to talk this way about the Supreme Felons, but also they've known me to talk the way I talked most recently about them. So I want to make sure that the people who weren't around just as recent as last year, I want to make sure that you understand why I am where I am, but really where I started. So let me double back here. Let me see exactly what I can find as far as this skit. Bring that full screen. And let's see here. Yeah, what I'm doing is just, I'm going to go back. It looks like probably about a minute. I think maybe that could be like a minute or two before. But I did a stream on July 10th of 2022. Okay. July 10th of 2022. And when I did this stream, I was actually out on my back deck. It was late at night. And you'll be able to see in just a moment here, and hopefully be able to hear clearly what I was saying, because I don't like to be misunderstood if I can be understood. I don't throw cryptic messages out there. Like, I've never said anything regarding anyone in my streams that I didn't try to clarify at a later moment. What's up, Free? Appreciate the hashtag. Anybody else coming in, feel free to make yourself known in the chat saying, hey, appreciate that support. The likes and the loves, whatever platform you're on, thumbs up. That's really what I need. I need those, because that helps this message move and helps the algorithm get into other networks. So more than anything, still not begging for money like a lot of the casters come up and say, make sure you hit that Snapchat, that super chat, and I don't even know their names. How can I be asking for money? Brother Richard, how you doing today? But one of the things that I like to do is I always like to give clarification to everything that I'm doing. And in this video, I talked a lot about, hello, Sister Val, Black Coffee. I talked a lot about our local stuff that was going on. But I really want to show where I was last year so I can talk about where I am in present day's time. So let me go ahead and let this roll, and you can hear. Hopefully, that is clear on the screen. You know, I think the caption says "Attention, Native Black Americans." We use that, and the stuff that I talked about last year. You know, the all class reunion. I called it the all class BSU reunion because it was just mostly black folks at that thing. Then you see the grassroots work, Supreme Felons Incorporated. We're going to talk about that. That's what I was talking about in this stream. And I want people to understand where I was last year and why I'm where I'm at this year. But you got to know where I was to understand where I am now. So give me 1 sec here.
They all get some shit. They don't say, oh, it's the Japanese over here and the Chinese
We got to
over
chop
here
this
and the
back.
Taiwanese
Hold on
over
a
here and
second.
the regular shit. I'm on that shit that don't nobody want to talk about, but it's the reality.
Here we go.
The reality is here, folks. And we in trouble. We in trouble. Okay. And there's divisiveness amongst the ranks once again as we work our way towards putting together the blueprint, the master plan, as some might call it. We've got divisiveness. Every time we try to get right out here on this road to reparations, here comes somebody throwing a stone. Here comes somebody stepping in front of the car. Here comes some naysayer. How's that going to happen? Whatever. But now it's starting to come from people that were supposed to be not only allies, but on the inside, you know, wanted to call themselves founders of something. And I know jealousy is a motherfucker. And see, jealousy to me is weird because I really can't say I've ever been jealous of a motherfucker. It's been really difficult for me to really think about, have I ever been truly jealous of someone? Because to be truly jealous of someone, it means that you cannot acquire what they have, because that's what you're jealous of. You're jealous of who they are, what they have, what they do. And I have never been in a position to where I have never felt that I couldn't acquire something that someone else has. But on this situation, people, they want to be recognized. I'm not sure exactly why anybody wants to be recognized on this platform. We're on the road to reparations. We're on the road to repair. If we're on the road to repair, then why the fuck would there be division? I've said it before and I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna say it right now. When the Latinos get some shit from the government, they don't divvy that shit up and be like, oh, the Mexicans is here and the Puerto Ricans is here and the Dominicans is here and the Colombians is here and the El Salvadorans is here and the Hondurans is here and the Guatemala. Them motherfuckers is Latinos. Latinos. When the Asian American Pacific Islanders get some shit, they all get some shit. They don't say, oh, it's the Japanese over here and the Chinese over here and the Taiwanese over here and the Vietnamese over here and the no-knees and the this and these and whatever. What the fuck? No. They just say they Asian so they can get the motherfucking bag. We start talking about Middle Eastern motherfuckers, Arabs, Chaldeans. Arabs and Chaldeans will fight. You call an Arab a Chaldean and a Chaldean an Arab, they will fight in the middle of the street. You say Middle Eastern motherfucker, they'll both stand up, be like, oh, we here to get the bag. Are you Arabic or Chaldean? I'm Middle Eastern. How about that? We here for the bag. I'll tell you what I am after I get the bag, but don't worry about it. And anything he's trying to do, as long as I'm getting what he's getting, we the same. Not us. Not us. Not us. European motherfuckers, just immigrant motherfuckers that come over here. Motherfuckers come over here from Poland and Albania and this and that and that. They look white. Ukrainians look white. Hell, some of them Afghans came over here. They look white. You know what's on their motherfucking shit? White. I was just looking at something a couple days ago. All these goddamn Latinos marked white on their shit. Their shit says white. And we all know they do it. Everybody does it. They only come over here with their ethnicity to get the resources as a person of color, as a minority. But once they get all the motherfucking resources, that color goes away and they assume whiteness. They assume fucking whiteness. Brother Foley, it's good with you, bro. This brother right here doing some fucking work. He's doing some motherfucking work.
Listen up.
And if you don't mind, I'm going to recognize this shit. This is what I'm talking about. And like I said, I ain't against y'all going out and dancing and doing all y'all shit and everything, doing what y'all need to do. But there's got to come a time where the dancing stops. The dancing stops. And this brother, I got to turn my volume down. Brother Foley got the concerts and shit on his page. Where is this at? I remember a couple days ago. Hold on a second. Big shit. It's big shit. Now, I don't think people understand how big this is for this area. Superfelons were entrusted with stewardship over $1.2 million of the people's money used for the purpose of violence interruption. So they talking about doing some work in the motherfucking hood. Yes, we have hoods in Washington County. Obviously that we do have hoods because motherfuckers getting rolled up on doing Facebook Live videos. There's shooters out here they fucking can't catch. There's 15, 16, 17-year-olds that are stealing vehicles first thing in the fucking morning versus going to their fucking summer job. That's a problem. And the only way that's going to get stopped is people in the fucking streets. And we've got to be politically minded to put people in position to make sure the shit doesn't happen. From the grassroots level, all the way down, all the way up to law enforcement, to the prosecutor's office, everywhere. Everybody's got to be who we fucking need in office. Period. We can't have just a black face. We got to have black consciousness. If we don't have that, we don't have shit. Not people of color conscious, not minority conscious, not even African American conscious. Motherfucker, Eli Musk is an African American. What's her name? Charlize Theron. She's a fucking African American. All these white ass people out here are African Americans now. That's what y'all are? Y'all African Americans in this bitch? If you don't assume the political status that the United States Constitution gave you, which is an American freedman, I don't know what you're doing out here. And maybe you got something else in your blood. You might not be an American freedman. You could be a black immigrant. You could be from the Caribbean. You could be from Africa. I get it. I can go back in the census into the 1870s and 60s on my shit. So I'm an American freedman. But if a motherfucker came over here in 1995, he's not an American freedman. Yeah, if he came over here in 65, he ain't a motherfucking American freedman. But they getting the same fucking resources that y'all supposed to be getting. But yeah, so they got this grant to take. I mean, look, the shit that they in our past, we've assisted with senior monitor juvenile programs, outside school systems, helping our veterans or returning citizens find housing, clothing, food, and shelter. This sounds like shit politicians are supposed to do. These are fucking people in the hood. These are people in the hood doing this shit. These ain't fucking politicians. Because you know what? The politicians that we elect, they don't want to do shit. And now these motherfuckers trying to make U-turns to come back home and retire. Nah. You start out on PTO, then you move up to city council, then you move up to county commissioner, then you move up to state rep. You're supposed to go to be a senator. You ain't supposed to come back and be a county commissioner. There's no U-turn in politics.
So I'll stop there. But as you can see, I was actually a proponent for supreme felons. And I'm not going to say today that I'm a opponent of it because I understand what the mission is supposed to be. Now, where it's at and where it's going to go, I don't know. I don't know because the leadership, and I'm not talking about Billy Cole. I'm not talking about Brian Foley. I'm not talking about anybody that's in any type of administrative positions. Jeanette Hadden, anybody. I'm talking about the leadership, which is Derek Jackson, Marvin Gundy, Jerry Clayton at the top because he's still a sheriff, has misguided this mission, much like I've talked about other missions that they've misguided, like Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper. And people always ask me, why do I say Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper? Barack Obama created it. Where were you when he created My Brother's Keeper? I ask, you know. I mean, if anything, y'all should at least know about My Brother's Keeper with Steph Curry, because I know y'all watch sports. I know y'all stay up on all the sports, you know, not just, you know, regular sports, but y'all stay up around sports all around. So Steph Curry has made My Brother's Keeper one of his, you know, pet projects. And he's had podcasts and all kinds of stuff dealing with Barack Obama. Now, Barack Obama, I don't believe has ever come to Washtenaw County to be with the Washtenaw MBK. It might have given it a shot in the arm. I don't know. But the strategy, to me, has always been wrong with that. And I know different things about the strategies and the inner workings of it. So I speak on it when I speak on it just based on what I know. But in that clip, and I talked about the unity of individual collectives, where we don't collect ourselves and come unified just because other groups do. And other groups gain resources in our immediate area and all across the country. It's not something that doesn't happen, I'm sure, with other ethnicities from time to time. But globally, when you see groups, if the Asians get called Asians, you don't see Chinese, Japanese, Koreans, Taiwanese, anybody stepping up and trying to single themselves out. Nobody's on that individualism shit. They'll get called Asians to get the resources, to get the bag, absolutely every single time. But for us, we've got to figure out whether we want to be called this, that, whether we want to pray to this God, that God, you know, whether we want to be Muslims or Hebrew Israelites or Christians or whatever. We've got to figure all that out, when in actuality, none of that really makes a difference when they call in for American Black people. Well, they're going to call you African Americans. That's what is still politically in play. For some reason, we can't gather ourselves to do the right thing by that situation. So at this point, July last year, I was very supportive in the mission. I know some too. Probably watching Professor Black Truth right now, listening to Professor Black Truth. My scenario was, I want to support a group that looks like they're doing something, that is doing something. I don't give a shit what it looks like anymore. It can be as ugly as ever. If it's beneficial to the community, to the collective, I'm for it. So I was saluting them. And as you saw at that point, that day, one of the leaders of Supreme Felons was in my chat. He was in my chat. And I don't think he was in my chat just for me saluting. I think he was a common listener, because to be there that night, he probably had been there other nights. And I was very supportive of the mission. I've been very supportive of missions like that, or New Era Detroit, you know, the new Black Panthers. I'm very supportive of anybody who's trying to gather us, you know, on a clear-minded socioeconomic level, you know, and move our needle. I just don't need a whole bunch of parties, you know. I don't need a whole bunch of pandering. I don't need a whole bunch of nothing that's going to end up not moving our needle. So I'm always here for it. Absolutely. You got to be doing. I mean, everybody can make it look good, right? Everybody can make it look good. But you got to be doing out here. So I was under the impression that things were just normal with this situation. And then it became an extreme situation because it started to become a politicized situation. And I don't believe, because I know that activism is directly tied with politics, I don't believe that certain things need to come into play. And where I'm talking about is the meeting from this past Tuesday. The meeting from this past Tuesday was an interesting thing. Let me go ahead and bring this back. The meeting from this past Tuesday was interesting. And the picture that you're looking at is the nearly full seat. And there's a bunch of people around the back and then out in the hallway. So like I said, there was definitely over 200 people here, and there's 205 seats in the room, but there was over 200 people here. And knowing that these folks came out in support of supreme felons, that was no problem to see anybody come out and support supreme felons. And it looks like I actually have some audio. So I want to break away really quick, and I want to get to the audio, because the audio is going to tell why I am where I am. Okay. It's going to tell why I'm where I'm at. And I want to move some things around here. Give me one quick second. I'm going to fill out the screen here, but I want to give the audio its proper due. Second. Make sure I've got that right. Okay. There we go. Think. Testing. Okay, good deal. So I'm going to play just some audio from the meeting from a couple people who spoke, and then pop back in. Okay, I need to do that. I want to play some audio because I believe the meeting was indeed packed. It was absolutely packed. And like I said, the support on the support level, I totally laud it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the support level. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. But when you come to support, you should have your bullet points correct. Your bullet points shouldn't be blanks. And a lot of people shot a lot of blanks just based on ignorance. Just general ignorance, not specifically what they said, because they were speaking in support of the group. So I can't say anything wrong there, but why they were speaking the way they were speaking, I have to, just, you know, and I'm not going to call BS because everybody did it out of the truthfulness of their heart. They just did not have all of the details. Some people say they have the intel, but not the details. Yeah. So let me see if I can pop this back in and give y'all some audio here on this thing.
This question is kind of addressed to him. I've been here since 5 o'clock.
Okay.
It is on.
Here we go.
Can you hear? Yeah. Okay, sorry about that. The first item on the agenda is call the meeting to order. Pardon? And we have a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silent prayer, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God.
Y'all ain't got to put your hand on your heart right now.
With liberty and justice for all.
You'll remain standing for a moment of silent prayer, please. Thank you.
I'll put you up on point right after the couple speakers.
First item on the agenda is public comments. And we had a work session and there were two gentlemen that were waiting to speak. And if we can hear from, everyone else first and then before people start repeating. So public comments, please.
Hello, my name is Dennis Hughes. I work for Supreme Felons. I do night watch. This question is kind of addressed to him. I've been here since 5 o'clock. And all I've been hearing was like Supreme Fellas, men like us, just anything that helps the community. He said he knows the community very well. He's out here. I'm 58 years old. This is addressed to him. I have never seen him in the community.
Now, just before I let him continue, they're speaking of an individual who has come under fire because of his connection to a situation that happened I think it was about 47 years ago. And his law school classmate was murdered. And he was murdered by one of the Supreme Felons. I believe the person who holds the president title, Billy Cole. Billy Cole has went to prison. He's now out, served, I think, 43 years, some change, whatever. So there is, right now, this is really where it's come to. It's come to, instead of an issue that needs to be resolved between the township and Supreme Felons, it's actually turned into a situation of Douglas Winters and Billy Cole. This was nuts to me. It didn't make sense to me. And it's never made sense to me because, one, you can't minimize someone's hurt, someone's pain, someone's grieving. You also can't take for granted that someone did 43 years and some change. But if you take those two situations and put them to the side, the business at hand this night, and I'm going to catch you up real quick, Emat, was about the want, and I think this was pushed forward by the WCSO or the leaders of Supreme Felons, Derek Jackson and Marvin Gundy, for the Supreme Felons to have authorized dispatch in some neighborhoods, particularly like Sugarbrook or Apple Ridge, things like that. And that's what this resolution brought forth for this meeting. And the people that came to speak, they indeed came to speak in support of Supreme Felons, but most of them didn't know about the resolution. Most of them didn't know the reason that the board meeting was in play dealing with Supreme Felons. They just came to support Supreme Felons. And I get that. I'm never going to discount that. And that's why I said some folks spoke ignorantly. Well, many folks spoke ignorantly, not particularly what they said. I'm going to stop saying that because you come in here after so many minutes. I've already said it so many times. I'm not calling anybody ignorant, but they spoke ignorantly because they weren't given the facts. They were told to show up and show out. I just wish they would have been told to show up. Here's the information that we're speaking on. This is what you're supposed to be supporting in lieu of trying to persuade the board to vote towards having such dispatch units in these neighborhoods. But instead, people just showed up and just spoke. So I think they got what they wanted. They got people to come and show up and show out. But unfortunately, the show up and show out was based on ignorance because they weren't given the proper information ahead of time. So let me let this brother continue to cook. And then there's going to be a couple of, I'm going to try to go like 2-3 speakers in before I come all the way back up. So just check it out.
He said he knows it very well. It's very Sugarbrook. Upper Ridge doesn't need night watch security. I said we do because I'm out there. I do night watch. I don't consider myself no police officer. I doesn't dress myself as a Army officer. If I see an incident, I will write it down and support it to my fellow members, my bosses, and let them address it.
So this situation was something that I thought about and I actually put in my personal text. So I'm going to actually comment on this. I'm not going to comment on every single person that speaks. I'm not sure exactly what that was about. I heard the gentleman, I heard his name. He actually had asked me a couple questions during the meeting. He says he documents incidents. Now, I don't know what type of incidents he documents or who he reports them to. Not even my business. Okay? Not even my business. What incidents and who he reports them to. So pay attention. I'm talking slow, but I need you to listen fast. If there is an incident and there is a crime that's committed, law enforcement should indeed be contacted. Whether the situation goes where nobody is harmed, nobody needs to go to the hospital, this, that, and the other, it still should be documented based on it being an incident. Now, minor altercations, everything doesn't need to have sirens come in. I get it. But if you have an incident that at least is worthy of you reporting to your boss or bosses, as he said, he definitely should make sure his bosses, whoever the bosses are, because I don't know who the bosses are, and then maybe the bosses are Derek Jackson and Marvin Gundy. From what I know, they were the leaders, they were the creators, they were the founders of Supreme Felons. The people that are in positions, that means nothing to me. I go to the root of things. And sometimes being at the root of things reveals certain things that some people just don't know. But what I do know from this vantage point, from the camera angle, because this shot was actually taken by Derek Jackson, somebody who I thought should have actually spoke on Tuesday. Now, I don't know why he wanted to keep a low profile, because if you want to keep a low profile, you probably shouldn't have came. But since he did come, he should have spoke. He should have spoke feverishly for the unit that he helped create. And for many of the people that he probably personally invited or had a hand in getting those people there based on his influence. So when you hear someone say that when there's an incident, I write it down and I report it to my boss, is that incident significant enough to where your boss should have probably reported it to the WCSO, Ypsilanti Police? I don't know where he does. No, he didn't speak. Derek did not speak, if that's who you're speaking of. Derek did not speak. He did not. He took pictures. He took pictures and eventually made Facebook posts. But let's stay on task here. He did not speak. And I didn't like that. I didn't like that he didn't speak where so many other people spoke. And it took some courage for some people to get up there. They're not public speakers or they're not driven for the microphone. I get it. But they got up there and they did what they did. And I appreciate them. I just don't like seeing anybody speak ignorantly, not their verbiage, just based on not having the information. So I think that's the last time I'm going to say that. Where are we at right now? Give me 1 second. Yeah. So right now we're looking at, we've got Dennis. I think he's still Dennis. Yeah, this is still Dennis because we haven't went to another speaker. Let me let him finish. But I had to key in on that when he said, I report it to my bosses. That was something that I'm like, okay, if it's a reportable situation, where are those statistics going? That's what my question was.
They want to address it. For him to make a statement talking about he knows the neighborhood very well. I've been in Ypsilanti. I'm 58 years old, 58 years. I have never seen this man in that neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
My name is Douglas Smith, lifelong resident of Ypsilanti Township. Just retired in 2020 as warden down at the Detroit Reentry Facility, Detroit Detention, and served as warden of Cotton Correctional Facility in Jackson. I just wanted to say that over 28 years ago, I was a young sergeant in Adrian, Michigan. There was a horrific riot in Adrian, Michigan. So you have to call on the guys who are looked up to as leaders in the penitentiary system, because you don't want to have loss of life. Billy Cole was that man. Now, I grew up with this man also here in Ypsilanti. My grandmother and his mother were very close. We used to get our eggs from them out there off of Talladega Road. And I just wanted to say that I challenged him over 28 years ago. Billy, I'm going to challenge you to a contest. Let's see who can outdo who doing good. It's about doing good now. So this started many, many years ago. And he served at 3 or 4 different facilities that all these men.
So, once again, great support team. They had a bunch of support. Okay. Not saying anything about the support. And this speech here was actually a pretty motivating speech for someone who knows nothing about nothing. Yeah, they don't know about the proverbial standoff of Billy Cole and Doug Winters, because I don't even know how it's gotten to this point. But they've minimized this whole situation to make it about 2 people. And it's unfortunate, because Mark Simpson, who was the victim of the crime in which Billy Cole perpetrated, hardly ever gets mentioned anymore. It's more about Billy Cole and Doug Winters. It's really weird. It's really strange, really odd. It is what it is. With that being said, okay, when I look at situations like this, people talking like this, and I'm hearing what he's saying, and I'm totally understanding. It's a motivational piece. And I don't believe that it was scripted in any way. I think this brother spoke from the heart. And if I'm not mistaken, to be honest with you, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's the brother that's in the blue shirt that's basically in the center of the picture standing up. So I believe he is the one that was speaking. If I'm not mistaken, he spoke after the gentleman that's at the microphone now. And I love his energy. I loved his confidence. I loved his support. I love the fact that he said he made a challenge. He made a challenge. Let's see who can do the most good. That's a beautiful thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing. But it had nothing to do with the resolution. It had nothing to do with dispatch. It had nothing to do with the county had set supreme felons up to do with the township, but never worked with the township to do so. And we're going to talk more about that. So let me just let him cook and finish what he has to say, and then we'll go to one more speaker, and then I'll come back up.
Have been in my prisons, all of them. And I have challenged all of them to start doing good. They started in the penitentiary with mentoring young men. At one time, I had over 23 African American men, boys really, from the south side of Ypsilanti. That's unacceptable in society. 23 at one facility, Adrian, Michigan. It's unacceptable. These men know how to approach these youth and meet them right where they're at, on the ground. They know how they receive different trainings, thinking for a change, violence management that they received in the penitentiary. Once you come into the penitentiary on inception, you are assessed for your criminogenic needs. These men were assessed and were sent to the specific training that would benefit them to become productive citizens in society upon their return. We had a rally it breaks my heart because I get a call. This year, I won't mention names, but some of my own family members have been killed in the township. And it breaks your heart because, once you get into it, their parents have grown up together. These men are needed in the community because it's going to take a village. It's going to take a village to repair what's been wrong for too long.
So I thought it was an appropriate time for me to come up. He said, it's going to take a village. But before it takes a village, it's going to take a whole bunch of villagers. And specifically, it's going to take one. Maybe not me, but since I'm the villager on deck, we're going to run with it right now. Appreciate your information, man. I truly liked what he said. From his motivational, piece, talking about the challenge that he made to Billy Cole, all the way up to these men being needed in the neighborhood. I like that. I totally get that. And no one, absolutely no one, can disagree with that. I don't believe that we can have too many men in our neighborhoods who are on that protective spirit, who are on that, we're going to get you right spirit, keep you from making that wrong turn and have you make a U-turn and stay within yourself and stay within your village. Because I know a lot of people talk about the recidivism thing. I talk about that other thing to keep you from committing a crime. So we don't have to worry about recidivism. If you ain't never committed a crime, you ain't never did no time, we don't have to worry about you going back. So I love what he said. But even this brother, even this clear-minded, clear-speaking brother had no idea why he was there. He didn't speak about the dispatch. And that's what everybody should have been there for. That's what I was there for. That's what other people were there for. But the people that really came and dug their heels in, rightfully, they just dug them in ignorantly. We can't continue to go down these roads, y'all. If we're going to do business, let's do business. Y'all already know. We're going to do business or we're going to do business. We're going to do business or we're going to do business. We can't continue to do business. Because ain't nobody going to let us do business. Here's where I don't blame one member of the Supreme Felons. Member. But I do blame leadership, and which I consider leadership to be Derek Jackson and Marvin Gundy and, like I said, Jerry Clayton, because they're the heads. They're the true heads of Supreme Felons. They were the creators, the founders. There was their brainchild. Basically, what they're using people who have gone in and out of the penal system, and they're utilizing their histories to push this agenda. I get it. But putting all of that aside, I can't blame members of the Supreme Felons because the reason that they were there that night was because they hadn't been there any other night. That's a problem. And that's not their fault. That's their leader's fault. Take me to your leader. Literally, that's all that should have ever been said. Take me to your leader or have your leader to come here. Seriously. That was never done. That was never brought about. So where I am right now, looking at these situations, once again, swing and a miss. When we have the opportunity, we got the room full. Look at it. You got the room full, man. You filled up the room. Why not fill up the microphones and the speakers the same way you filled up that room? If you give the right information to your people that you want to come out and support you, you won't have them up there talking like this.
These underserved kids need these people to mentor and to get them to not make the same mistakes that they made. All I ask is that the board really don't be hasty and make a decision. Take a moment. You really need to sit down and break bread with these guys and talk to them. Before a decision is made, ma'am. That's all I ask, because they do a lot of good. We had over 60 people show up at Park Ridge Field on the south side of Ypsilanti, and we prayed for those. We had the victims, okay, parents, many of them showed up, and we had kids that had assaulted people come. And to see them all come together and pray out there in that field, big old circle, and say that we are committed. This is our home. We are committed to making a change. And all I'm asking is that you give them a chance. Give them a chance. I did 10 years on the Detroit Police Department too. The Honorable Stan Eldridge, we grew up together. All I ask is that you give these men and women a chance before you make a decision to ban them. Thank you.
Okay. I thought I heard him say it, but I didn't know if he had said it at the beginning because I wasn't going to rewind. I thought he was the one. This was definitely the culture, and it was the theme, okay? Anybody coming in new, make sure you like this video. We've got a couple likes in here. We got a couple likes. We got a couple loves. Appreciate y'all. Just thumb it up, you know. Make sure that this travels through your algorithm because, like I said, I'm going to walk this down slow here. And the reason I have to walk this down slow, I don't want to be hasty in any of my movements. That's why I wanted to make the announcement at the beginning and play that old clip that I had where I was a flat out proponent of the supreme felons. But not today am I saying that I am an opponent. I'm just telling you what I'm at. So the theory from the crowd was that the supreme felons were being pushed to be disbanded by the Ypsilanti Township. Totally ignorant. Totally ignorant. It's an ignorant theory, and I'm not sure who even perpetuated that. Hopefully I don't find out that that's what the theme was sent out, was meant to be, because it was crazy. It was never a situation that they were trying to disband the supreme felons. That's the lunacy of it all. And this brother, you heard how well he spoke. You heard some of the elevated positions that he's had, been a Detroit police officer, as he stated right there near the end. Knows Stan Eldridge. You know, a couple people knew Stan Eldridge. Stan Eldridge talked about he knows Brian Foley. And most of these cats have known each other 55, 60 years. Crazy shit. But now they stand on other sides of the coin. I don't know if that's other sides of the field, let's say. Other sides of the field. Because of their political positionings. But to say that the Ypsilanti Township Board was trying to disband the supreme felons, it was a repetitive statement in so many words, but then in other types of words all through the night. And it carried on and on and on. And I mean, literally, I was like, so who said this? Who said they were being disbanded or the attempt was being made to disband them? I didn't know. And I had to end up asking, you know, much respect to Greg Dill, who actually sat next to me, didn't move. I think Greg, he knew who I was by then because I think I had been introduced to him by Ricky Jefferson, you know. But respect to him. We talked later in the meeting, you know, basically really kind of hoping that they didn't make the vote that night. We didn't want them to make the vote that night. We didn't think that they should make the vote that night, just based on the climate and the length of the meeting, because things had got so far off track. They had got so far off track. And I didn't think it would even be fair for them to make a vote simply because what had been spoken wasn't the reason that everybody was there. It it was wrong. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to hear everything. And I'm upset that I actually left when I thought the meeting was over. I left with the flush of people. It's like 80% of the people, maybe more, left after they had basically decided that there would be no vote. I kind of sauntered out with those people. I went to the bathroom and then came back and it was like, oh, it was over. I thought it was over because it was empty. But the meeting carried on and they had to carry on with their other business. But the craziness of it all was that nobody knew why they were there. Well, I won't say nobody. I think a few people knew why they were there. I think the Supreme Felons knew why they were there. I'm sure that the leaders of the Supreme Felons knew why they were there. Instead of taking pictures, Derek Jackson should have spoken. I might even think that maybe even because things had gotten so far off track, that even maybe Greg Dill had spoken. Now, Ricky Jefferson spoke, but Ricky spoke as if he didn't understand why everybody was there too. And that was surprising to me. Gave a very energetic speech. Sounded like he was back in the pulpit again. I know he said he's putting that collar back on, so he sounded like he was in the pulpit that day. We had a lot of ministers, elders, reverends, pastors, apostles, bishops. Everybody hit the mic that day. Even had somebody sing a gospel song. I'd never seen that before. In all the meetings that I've been to in all my years, and most recently even, I haven't heard anybody sing a gospel tune. Oh, a gospel tune. I didn't know if it was really needed or not. I'm going to say not. You know, made me want to start beating on the back of a chair. They needed some percussions. But really, how much did it really help? How much did the gospel tune really help? I don't know. I just don't know. But let's listen to a little bit more of the audio, because now that I know that I got the audio downloaded properly, I didn't think I was going to be able to get it downloaded properly. Now that I got it downloaded properly and it's properly amplified, let's listen to a little bit more of the public commentary, and then I'll come back and really get into why and where I thought we went wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
I do respect your request to wait. However, I have another meeting to get to, and my mom is in the hospital right now, so I'm rushing to do a bunch of things.
Sure.
Men like us, what does this place mean to our community? Well, I'm glad you asked. So I'll tell you. This place serves as a multi-purpose venue space.
So let me just stop it right there. Men Like Us was not on the docket. Okay? All due respect to Artist Lewis, Men Like Us, anybody connected to Men Like Us. I talked to Artist Lewis. See, a lot of y'all think that I'm such a contrarian, that I'm on such the opposite side. And I be hearing that little bullshit, that little all skin folk and kinfolk shit. I be catching that. That little Uncle Tom. Y'all got to understand. Will y'all just read and find out who Uncle Tom was? Stop calling people Uncle Toms. If you want to say I'm a Sambo, call me a Sambo. Because I can refute that too. Because I've literally probably helped more people in one calendar month than you've helped all your life. So tell me who I'm benefiting out here, and tell me who you're benefiting. Y'all want to stack resumes? Let's stack resumes. But let me get back on course, shall we? Artist Lewis and Men Like Us was not on the docket. But somehow it got shoehorned in because of the situation with Supreme Felons. Now, that's fine. That's perfectly fine that it happened. And I talked to Artist Lewis. I talked to him right after the meeting. No, I think it was during the break. He actually came in, spoke, shook my hand. Then it was like during the break. And then after the meeting, talked to him at length. Just gave him some suggestions of what a OAN would do. That's an old-ass Negro. That's an OAN, an old-ass Negro. I thought I would give him a little bit of advice. Whether he used it or not, whether he's used it or not, that's up to him. See, my thing is, I'm never going to give you bad advice. And the fact that I'm giving you any advice at all, you should at least take it to somebody else and say, hey, McFall said this. What do you think? And let them decide whether I gave you bad advice or not. Because if you're just in your feelings and I give you advice and you don't want to hear it because it's me, that's on you. But take it to somebody else. But he was thrown into the agenda that night, and that's what this next soliloquy will be about. It didn't have anything to do with Supreme Felons. It had to do with Artist Lewis. Now, Supreme Felons are kind of indirectly affiliated with Artist Lewis and Men Like Us because they've had events together and this, that, and the other, gun violence marches and whatnot. But once again, I like the unity. I like the camaraderie. I like people sticking up for other people. But there's a time and a place for everything. And artists and Men Like Us have their own situation going with Ypsilanti Township. So they should keep that situation laser focused versus having it bleed over into another situation. Personal. This is just my personal ideology. Take it, leave it, or lump it. I get it. But for her to actually not only interrupt, because this is the second time she spoke. She had spoke before and didn't get all that out because she had something else to say. Now she needed to break back in because she had to leave and her dog was sick and I think her mom was in the hospital and she had another meeting to get to. Whole lot of shit happening. Because if you tell me your mama's sick or she in the hospital, I don't care about no meeting. I don't care about nothing else you got to do. You shouldn't even be here. How did you get here? Your ass ain't supposed to be here. You should be with your mama. Go be with your mama. If your mama's under the weather, you go be with your mom. I would give anything to go be with my mama. I'm not gonna be at a township meeting if my mama's sick. Unless my mama told me, go up there and say that speech for artists. Oh, it ain't artists' night. Keep your ass here, girl. That's, she wouldn't have said girl to me, but that's kind of, she's dedicated. Don't hate on her civic awareness. See where y'all see me as a contrarian. Well, I know I'm a contrarian. I've got people who are even contrary to me. So let this continue to cook. Boy, you a fool.
Families together after their loved ones have passed and they've had a funeral, a hosting spot for local nonprofits and even political groups, a space that has hosted town hall meetings and much, much more. But what you see is a dwelling place that has thugs there, as folks would call them, and have drafted up a plan to eliminate it. I think it's shameful that you have drawn all of these conclusions about this space without even sitting down to learn the owner's vision in detail and to help him find safe ways to execute that vision. You claim that the violence on the outside of the building is his fault. Well, I want to inform you and serve you notice. For those that live in this bubble and may not know, 48197 and 48198 is plagued with gun violence, as it has been for many years, long before Men Like Us ever leased that space. This man has worked hard. Let me name him. Artist Lewis has worked hard to get this building together, spent so much money preparing this space, But just like some of our Caucasian siblings have done from before the days of slavery, trying to take what does not belong to them, leaving behind devastation from what they have taken. Why not wrap your arms around this Black-owned business, as you don't have many of them in the township? Why not utilize some special funding to give this organization some sort of grant for security for 1 year? There are many things, there are many solutions that you could do. But for Black folks, and anything for us, your answer is always to snatch our fund. Your answer is to always take it away. Now, I would like to point out that the Regal Beagle has long time caused many problems within the community, and I am not telling you what I don't know. I used to live across the street from that place. Has caused many problems within the community, but no one, not one of you, has ever made a move to close it down. I mean, it's a real nuisance, okay? And does absolutely, I've never seen a community event there. Raise your hand if you have. Okay, I'll wait. Okay, let me move on because I know I'll be waiting. They've done absolutely nothing at the Regal Beagle to pour into the community. So what you're doing, and I know you may not know this, and there are some good, well-intentioned white folks that don't understand, but this is truly rooted and grounded in racism, and you are using tactics of white supremacy to once again take from the Black community. Right. I mean, you are.
So once again, we go off the rails when we're not focused, when our bullet points aren't tight, and where I could be just in such an attack mode on that commentary. I don't have time to do that today. We'll do that another day. Okay, we'll do that another day. I don't need to be in attack mode based on what was said there, as untrue as a lot of it was. Okay. Personally, I've actually been to political events. You know, I've been to several events at Regal Beagle. So that's funny. Fundraisers, people that were sick, and they did fundraise. I've been to many of them, but I don't know what that's about. I really don't. But anyways, I don't know why Men Like Us and Regal Beagle were just compared. Men Like Us is a social club. Okay. I thought it was bent on memberships and things like that. I learned other things, obviously, through this process. But the Regal Beagle is a bar and grill. The Regal Beagle has a liquor license. They've got a food license. They function as a bar and grill. Open up in the afternoon, close at 2 a.m. And that's what they're licensed to do. They want to have parties, they can have parties. They want to charge admissions, they can charge admissions. They want to rent the place out, they can do all that stuff because that's what they're licensed to do. Men Like Us is not that. But people think it is, so they speak ignorantly. Not saying what she said was ignorant. She was pretty clear that day. She actually spoke pretty clearly. But she spoke ignorantly because she didn't have all of her facts together. Now, maybe it could have been because she was running out to another meeting, her dog was sick, her mom was in the hospital, she had to go. I don't know. That's not my business. My thing is stick to the task at hand. And the task at hand that day was Supreme Felons. It wasn't Artist Lewis and Men Like Us, although she did support him and other people came in to support Artist that night. Artist spoke that night. I think he might be even on this draft because if I'm not mistaken, he spoke very close to the time she spoke. So we'll get on with that. But he wasn't even on the docket that night. But since it was a black meeting, because that's what everybody categorized it as, it was a black meeting. It was a black folks going to show up because I ain't never seen that many people at a township meeting ever. And I know just a few weeks ago they had one that was pretty heated, talking about ARPA funds and things like that. It had nothing to do with the ARPA funds about Supreme Felons, but the monies that the township had and how they were going to spend it. They had a few people there, but it still wasn't 200. They had 200 there that night. They filled the room. They literally filled the room to talk kind of ignorantly. Good support, good unity, great ideology. Okay, I totally disagree with you, but we all have an opinion. Have you been here since the beginning, Michelle? Have you been here since? If you've been here since the beginning, please state why you disagree, because I'm willing to totally stop the stream to state I have no problem with you disagreeing. I just want to have a dialogue with you real quick so we can move forward with this audio. Now that I'm going to be able to kind of shape part of the stream with this audio, what do you disagree with me on? Because I would love to hear your opinion. Take your time to type. I have no problem with it. This is not meant for everybody to like. I said that. So there's a lot of people that are not going to like what I'm saying, even though I'm being very clear in the way I'm saying it. So if somebody comes in right now, or they've come in the last 20 minutes and they say, oh, man, he said they was talking ignorantly. Yeah, because you didn't listen at the beginning when I clarified, when I said ignorance today, it wouldn't be about a person being ignorant, or even what they're saying was ignorant. They just didn't have the information. There's so many different ways you can use the word ignorantly, and I choose to use every single way I can. So please feel free to, share that dialogue when you're ready. Or I can send you the link and you can come up on the stream. I have no problem with that. Whatever's clever today, I have no problem with it. I have no agenda other than just to speak my mind on what I saw and what I heard, at the meeting. So, it was interesting to just continue to hear over and over how people thought the disbanding of Supreme Felons was the mission, was the goal of the township. It was unfortunate. It was absolutely unfortunate, but it was interesting to know that the leadership didn't get in play beforehand. And I'm going to wait for that comment. When you do have that printed up, I'll make sure that I stop exactly wherever I am in the stream and respond to your comment. But I appreciate your comment, and you can absolutely disagree with me. That's why this type of dialogue has to be had, because we're not always going to agree. And if I'm saying something in an errant fashion, I want to be corrected. Because right now, everything is just based on what I saw. So obviously it is my opinion. And I've always stated, since I started stating it just recently, the opinions of the Villager on Deck are solely mine. And it has nothing to do with anybody that I support, anybody that I promote, or anybody that I am in cahoots with. Okay? So please do that. Please feel free to do that. While we're waiting for that, we've been dealing with this situation all week. Okay, because everything in our business or entertainment, AA business. Oh, African-American, because everything African-American business or entertainment starts, they find something wrong. I get it. I got it. I went with Ann Arbor. When I see two A's, I generally say Ann Arbor because I don't use the term African-American. I get you. Okay, so here's the thing. Once again, so we're going to disagree on this. It says because every African-American business or entertainment starts, they find something wrong. I don't believe that is true. I don't believe that they find something wrong. And I think you're speaking of the township. I would think specifically, I would think you're speaking of the township. Or I don't know if you're speaking of the city as well, in Ypsi in general, or just Washtenaw County. We could round it out to Washtenaw County. I don't know. My thoughts on that are, I don't believe that is totally factual. I don't believe every business that opens up or every entertainment-like venue that opens up that is ran by, I'm going to use your term, African Americans. I use American blacks or American freedmen, really. I don't believe everyone is looked at as a negative force in the community. Personally, this is just me personally. Now, what I do know is, and I believe it was 48 weeks of opening, there were like 37 complaints. These are documented complaints, like with the police. 37. 48 weeks, 37 complaints. That's almost a complaint a week. And there's not even an event a week at Men Like Us. So when you have that many complaints in that period of time, it might shed some light on you that you don't want. I get it. And then you just have to act accordingly when dealing with law enforcement or whomever is going to come by and have questions, whether it be political figures, the township themselves, you know, the police that are going to investigate any crimes that possibly happened on your property or surroundings. Okay, complain about what? I have to go. Thank you for sharing. Okay. No problem. Hopefully I was able to clarify something. I don't know. Anyways, my information, like I said, is my information. And I want to be, because Michelle, she's liked things on my post too. And I'm glad she came on and spoke her piece. Definitely not anything wrong with that. And I appreciate her support of artists, and she probably supports Supreme Felons. I appreciate it all. I appreciate it all. I just want everybody to always have the most information. So the complaints were police complaints. They weren't, when I say complaints, I'm speaking, I guess, from a law enforcement dialect. You know, they were like, police had been called. And this is what I've been told. This is the number that I've been given. And maybe they all weren't directly connected to artist and his location, but if people were around that location, because there's a bar and a restaurant that's few buildings over, there's a car wash there, incidents that happen and could have bled from his place, bad term of words there, but could have, they could have leaked from his place, patronage. They're going to always go back to where these people were. So let's not be, naive and to think, hey, if somebody gets into a fight at 2:05 at the car wash, probably wasn't two guys over there arguing about whose chamois it was or who stole whose Armor All. They probably were people that had been at Men Like Us, seeing that Men Like Us is still open. And this is what I'm saying. Like, if there's been complaints, then you address those complaints. If you're already gone, something happens and Men Like Us is closed up and something happens, they can't put that on you. But chances are at 2:00, parking lots just emptying out, people are still there and things happen. They're absolutely going to associate any nonsense that is happening to your establishment. That could be if it was a McDonald's. It's the McDonald's fault. It's going to be looked at as the McDonald's fault if somebody gets into a fight at their location every single night. If there are 24-hour McDonald's, they'll be like, you know what? You need to shut your hours down because you guys can't control this between the hours of 2 and 4. So you need to shut it down, be back open at 6:00, ready to serve, some sausage McMuffin with eggs. Because if that's the hot time for crime, they're going to shut the location down. And chances are people won't congregate there to do senseless shit. That's just one way to do it. That's one way to solve it. Nobody goes to like empty, dark parking lots to fight. 1:56, y'all. Y'all know what time that is. But yeah, nobody goes to empty parking lots, especially if they're dark, to fight. You don't see that. And they're not going to go to well-lit ones because who wants to be identified in the light? That's kind of dumb, right? So it is what it is. Let me carry on to a little bit more dialogue, and then we'll come back. But once again, thanks, Michelle Simmons, for commenting, and hopefully I was able to clear a little bit of that up.
Ran the Elks out of business. Can I get an amen for them running the Elks out of business? Okay.
So I think that's actually misguided too, because I don't think the Elks got really ran out of business. There were some improvements that needed to be made around the location. And this is just based on good information of the people who actually run the place and their people. Like, because I was there. I just went to a birthday party there a few months ago. And then all of a sudden I noticed that, Fridays and Saturdays, they didn't have cars up there. And I asked, and they said, had to do something with the way the grass had been concreted over or something like that. And they needed to get all that stuff back open. I don't know. But I don't think that Ypsi Township said, you know what? We need one less Black-owned business, so let's go after the Elks. The Elks has been there longer than I've been here. The Elks has been around forever. I mean, you got the one in Ann Arbor, you got the one in Ypsi. They're both literally got to be 50-year spots, 50-year plus. I don't think they walk around looking for lodges to close. But if you're not going by the standards, that are set by the township, by the city, by the county, they gonna fuck with you. I mean, let's just be honest. If you think that it's an issue because you're a Black business, then why wouldn't you want to have all your ducks in a row? Every single last duck. Because if you already think that they're going to mess with you just for being a Black business, wouldn't you want to have all your shit together? Just think about it. You said, Ari. So this is so necessary. The information is key. And to your point, bullet points, and we got to stay on topic. What was the deal with the resolution? They didn't vote on the meeting, on what the meeting was about. When they do vote, will they have another time to go over things, resolution, before they vote? So, very, very good question. Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you. And let me answer that. Let me come on back up. So, no, they didn't get a chance to vote. Okay? Because their public commentary went so long that they ran out of time. They literally ran out of time. It got to like 9 o'clock. They had been there since 5. And it got to 9 o'clock and they hadn't gone over any other business. I think a few other people got some of their initiatives out early, some planning things and stuff like that early on. But I think you're supposed to come back and vote on that stuff later. They never even got to it because there were so many public comments, which once again, I salute y'all. You hear me? You hear me, y'all? I salute you for coming together. Absolutely. I salute you. Because when you do that, when you do things like that, it makes us look good as a collective when you come together. I get it. But when you come together and you don't get the point across that needs to be gotten across, that's the problem. And some 3 hours and 50 minutes in, they were ready to move. They were ready to move forward, And it got a little contentious there at the end because the sister stepped up to the mic. And frankly, I thought it was a little tone deaf on Brenda's part to be like, that's it. They should probably have we're going to have 5 more comments, 4 more comments, or we're going to have commentary for the next 10 minutes, however they want to do it. Truthfully, I think they need a timer. I think that's where they failed on Tuesday. They needed a timer because some people got up there and literally was up there for 10 minutes. And that's just not needed. Not with a full room. When you only got 5, 6 people at the meeting, that's one thing. You can go a little long, okay? But, Brother Tucson got up there, and he did his thing as he always does. I was just at the commissioner's meeting with him, and he went over his timer. And they was ready to cut him off. And he's like, it's all right. I'll be back. I love his spirit. And he's like, that's all right. I'll be back. So, which I'm sure the commissioners, just love. But the main thing for me was so many people talked. Some people talked twice, as you heard. But they talked long. And if you're talking long and talking right, it's not as bad. But when you're talking long and talking wrong, that's bad. And that's what happened. That's literally what happened. So they did not get a chance to vote. And I was sitting next to the county administrator. I want to put that out there. I'm doing some clout chasing now. I was sitting next to the county administrator, Greg Dill. Greg and I have never spoke personally. So it was strange for us to speak that night. But he did, he conversed with me, and we both agreed that they should not vote that night just based on the vibe. Another brother got up and said, read the room. You got to read the room. He had a little sermon with it, I guess. And I think the board did that. I think they did a good job of reading the room. They were not tone deaf in the way of, saying, you know what, y'all said what y'all gonna say, and we still voting. No, they were very, very rational with it. Okay. When you have been there for 4 hours and you've listened patiently at person after person speak about things that just aren't true because they just weren't there to disband the Supreme Felons. They weren't. They had no ideas about disbanding that unit. The resolution was about dispatch in the township's neighborhoods. Certain townships' neighborhoods, I'm sorry. More densely populated by American Black folk. I get it. But for the people not having that information, this is what led them down those paths of ignorance. And it's going to happen. Look, man, if I go into the Ypsilanti City Council meeting and I've got the agenda for the Ann Arbor City Council meeting, hey, my spirit was right. I was at the city council meeting. I was there to speak on some agenda ideas. But if I got the Ann Arbor agenda and I'm at the Ypsilanti City Council meeting, I'm just as wrong as two left shoes. Forget my heart. Forget my spirit. Forget that I really meant well. I'm off key and off code. They'd be like, you know what? You need to get on over to Ann Arbor with that. They'd probably let me talk and then at the end say, Mr. McFall, this is not the Ann Arbor City Council meeting. And I was wondering if one of the trustees was going to say anything. One of the board members, or even Brenda herself. Like, after so many people that were there to genuinely support the Supreme Felons, I was wondering, was anybody just going to stand up and be like, what the hell, y'all? We are not trying to get rid of the Supreme Felons. This has nothing to do with the disbanding of a unit. But you know who could have cleared that up? Derek Jackson. Derek Jackson could have cleared all this up. And he didn't. And I don't know why he didn't. I don't know why he sat pat. But he took a good picture. I mean, that's a great picture. He got the room all together, showed the support that people came out to support the Supreme Felons. That's a good thing. But instead of him doing that, somewhere mid-stroke, he should have said, you know what, folks? We appreciate you being here tonight. We appreciate your support. We, as in Supreme Felon, since he's part of the group, the leader of the group, whatever. He should have stood up and said this. This is what a good leader does. Okay? This is what a good leader does. A good leader gets up midstream and says, you know what, folks? Y'all have been on point with your support. And I myself and the rest of the Supreme Felons, we totally appreciate it. But this ain't got nothing to do with them trying to tear us apart. This ain't got nothing to do with them trying to disband us. This ain't got nothing to do with them trying to dissolve our group. Folks, this has to do with a resolution that's been put together because they don't want dispatch units in the neighborhoods. Bam. And anybody that has spoke before that, they could have been like, oh shit. Probably not, because a lot of people don't want to really admit that when they're wrong on this shit. But they probably would have been a tad bit embarrassed because they done blamed everybody up in the front. They done blame these folks talking about y'all trying to get rid of black folks. Y'all trying to get rid of black folks' business. Y'all don't like black folks. Y'all racist. We already up to racism. This ain't got nothing to do with race. This had nothing to do with race. But it got made like that because that was thrown out there. And it had been thrown out there over and over by many people. It's unfortunate that how something like that comes down to race. This is a business decision. I mean, the township pays the county millions to police every single neighborhood in the township. And I get that supreme felons were granted $1.2 million to do neighborhood watch in 48197 and 48198. Now, I don't know if that's specifically those particular neighborhoods that they were trying to seek dispatch at. I've never really even cared about that. When I hear 48197, 48198, I think they're supposed to be protecting everybody in 48197, 48198 the best way they can as a neighborhood watch unit. It is what it is. But if that's not what they set out for, then okay, then it's bogus because it's not really 48197 and 48198. It's just 48197 and 48198 where black folks stay. Okay, I get it. But real talk, when you hear the racism, the bigotry, the this, the that, the white supremacy, when all that gets thrown out, it's got to get thrown at something that's going to stick on. And how can it stick on the resolution to not have dispatch units? What's that? They don't want no dispatch units in none of the neighborhoods, white or black. There's other neighborhood watch type units in Washtenaw County. They don't want none dispatching. Only people that need to be dispatched in 48197 and 48198 is WCSO or maybe Ypsilanti or maybe State Police. A little bit of Pittsfield Township. Hell. That's who needs to get dispatched. That's what they're saying. And the fact that they pay the county millions of dollars to do this, why would they want a neighborhood watch group to do what they're already paying somebody millions of dollars to do? Now, since this group was created by people that worked for WCSO, maybe they want to work with them. Maybe they should work with them. But they're not deputized. They're not armed officers. They're not people that the county looks at as law enforcement. They're a neighborhood watch unit. And they do some other things, I guess. And if that had been broken down by leadership, by Derek Jackson, we wouldn't have had this issue. We wouldn't have had this issue. So let's go back to a little bit more of the audio, and then we'll keep it moving.
And now you want to take another space that means a lot to our community. I'm asking you to please stop. Please stop with the tactics of racism because we are aware and we see you.
I'm sorry, she's still talking about Artist Lewis. Maybe she's gonna get to something with supreme felons. I'm not sure. But the next person I believe will be talking about supreme felons, I think.
Reconsider your assault on this black-owned business and find a way to work with Artist Lewis. He's a really nice guy. If you try to sit down with him, he'll reason with you. I'm sure he wants to find a solution other than you all shutting his business down. So this business can grow into the vision that God gave artists. See, what you don't know is that God gave artists the vision for this business before he opened his doors. And if you'll be again, you want to sit down and make decisions for us, but you don't even want to talk to us. It makes absolutely. Let me stick to my script. I speak.
She wasn't speaking from a script. I thought that was actually pretty script-like. I mean, it sounded like a sermon more so than anything. See, I don't really understand how we got there. Like I said, artists being thrown into the agenda that night, good for him. He got some support by maybe some people that wouldn't have known about his plight dealing with the township. I get it. But it wasn't on the docket. So it was kind of not only out of bounds, it was weird. And then now she's actually taking mic time from other people who are trying to support the supreme felons. And, you know, she's on the soapbox right now. So we're going to let her finish it out.
strongly to you because clearly you don't want the Black community to flourish, especially since you did nothing for us with those ARPA dollars, I will say again. I know what Biden intended for those ARPA dollars. Why? Because I read the long, extensive list of things that could be done with those dollars. And one of those things was to pour into Black-owned businesses within the community. You could have sent that money directly to Black folks or anybody within the community if you wanted to. There were many things that you could have done with those ARPA funds, but you chose to do what you wanted to do instead of what the people, and I told them, they were so nice. They wanted to reason with y'all, and they had a survey, and they did all this great stuff, and you still turned around and did what you wanted to do. I know your loved one's name is on this building, God rest his soul. But you are not the end all be all to the needs of the people. When it comes to our needs, we know what we need. We need you to ask us what we need and then go back to your seat and execute that. So I'm strongly again encouraging you all today to come up with another plan for men like us that does not include eliminating this business, because we need this business. This business we've hosted an event there, and we plan to host many other events there. It was safe, there was no gun violence, and there were many people from the community there. I'm asking you, please reconsider.
Thank you for your comment. Who was up first? Were you?
Good evening.
Oops.
My name is Dr. Michael Mashif White, and I reside in Ypsi Township. Ladies and gentlemen of Ypsi Community Board, esteemed members and fellow citizens, I stand before you today with a deep and passionate appeal to rally our collective support behind the Supreme Felons and have others address the resolutions regarding the immediate request to strike from the contract awarded to the Supreme Felons. As we gather here to discuss matters of immense importance for the growth and harmony of our community, it is paramount that we recognize the role the Supreme Felon plays in fostering mentorship, advocacy, mental health assistance, and housing connectors, not to mention social justice and nonviolent alternatives. By backing the Supreme Felons, we can actively contribute to the betterment of our community's young people and ensure that all individuals, regardless of their background, can thrive and contribute meaningfully to our community. Founded in 2022, the Supreme Felons is building a storied history of promoting social.
That was wrong, but I'm gonna let him cook.
Justice and advocating for the equality of returning citizens. From the challenges we have in 48197 and 48198 to the tireless efforts towards dismantling community violence, the Supreme Felons has.
Are you hearing the dismantling? He was wrong about when the group got started. Now he's talking about the dismantling, but we're going to let him cook.
Led the charge in breaking down the barriers, hindered the progress of marginalized communities. By supporting the Supreme Felons, we not only align ourselves with this heritage of social change, but actively contribute to its continuation. While significant strides have been made, it is undeniable that challenges persist. Racial disparities in education, criminal justice, community violence, and healthcare continue to plague our society. These issues are not just abstract concepts, but concrete realities that affect the lives of our fellow community members. By collaborating with the Supreme Felons, we can leverage their expertise, resources, and advocacy to address these inequalities head on. Through partnership, initiatives, and policy advocacy, we can collectively work towards a community that values diversity and ensures equal opportunity for all. One of the cornerstones of the Supreme Felons mission is the empowerment of our youth. By providing educational resources, mentorship, and eventually scholarships, the Supreme Felon uplifts young individuals and equips them to become leaders of tomorrow. By supporting the Supreme Felons, we can contribute to the programs that inspire to guide our youth towards a future where their potential is fully realized, regardless of their racial or challenged backgrounds. In a world often divided by differences, the Supreme Felon stands as a beacon of hope. I said, in a world often divided by differences, the Supreme Felon stands as a beacon of hope, advocating for the unity, dialogue.
See, that right there, that was a point. Like when he said hope, everybody was supposed to burst into like an applause. You got to understand, I've been a part of many That's M-A-N-Y-O, Minio, church services. And when the preacher puts that emphasis, I don't know if he's actually a preacher. I know he's a doctor. He made sure we knew he was a doctor. And that's good. I love professional brothers. I love physicians. Absolutely. I don't know what kind of doctor he is, if he's an educated doctor or if he's a medical doctor. I don't know, whether he has a pen or a scalpel. It don't matter to me. What matters to me is that he got up there and said a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't relevant to that night, because he was talking about disbanding too. He was talking about them being taken out of the community. As he spoke on one of the cornerstones of dealing with the youth. One of the cornerstones is neighborhood watch. Obviously, that's one of the cornerstones, and that's why they were there that night, about a dispatch unit. See, people don't really understand that if you say something wrong and let the next person say something wrong and let the next person say something wrong, look, we got way off course here, because this actually is, I believe, after the break. There's a whole other session that I jumped to the second session. And if I'm not mistaken, Artist ends up speaking on his behalf, on his own behalf, shortly here. And we'll listen, because, everybody deserves a turn. But the main thing is, this night was supposed to be about supporting the Supreme Felons and the resolution that was put in place for them not to have dispatch units. Now, truthfully, I don't know exactly what the Supreme Felons even want to do, whether they want to be dispatched. I don't know. Don't even care. But the fact that we never got to the root of it, because there were so many comments that were off key, and none of the leadership, Derek Jackson, Marvin Gundy, I don't even believe Jerry Clayton was in attendance. But they didn't step forward and say, hey guys, we appreciate the support, but this just isn't about a disbanding of the unit. It's not even about the disbanding of a unit. Really, nobody can actually disband the unit but Supreme Felons. They're a nonprofit. Nobody can disband them. You can directly affect how they operate if you govern certain territories, but you can't disband them. So the ignorance ran rampant with everybody thinking, not everybody, most people thinking that this was about the disbanding of a group. What you say there, E? That's what I heard you say when I jumped on about dispatch. I kind of heard the one gentleman saying, give them an opportunity. That was close, but everything so far, but was not directed at that. You hit the nail on the head, but when someone jumped on late, hearing you just say, you catch a soundbite about somebody, talking ignorant. I get it. I totally get it. And everybody's not going to be here at the beginning. So when they do break in at 30, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and they hear me saying stuff, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. I only know what I know. And this is based off of what I saw. These things aren't even based off of what someone else has told me. I sat there during the whole meeting. Well, at least the part up until the vote, or the decision not to vote, excuse me. So some people that may watch this may comment after the fact. I'm going to first ask, were you at the meeting? If they don't come in the chat, if they're not on the live here today, I'm going to say, were you at the meeting? And if you weren't at the meeting, then you need to get the whole public commentary and listen to what I spoke about before you say something greasy about my post. Because I'm only speaking what happened about the meeting. I don't really believe that anybody can disagree with what I'm saying, because all I'm saying is we missed the mark. Support was great. The fact that people came out was great. But if your message is wrong, you are a boxing coach. And if you train your boxer to fight a right-handed fighter and he ends up going in there and the guy is southpaw, what happens to your fighter? I mean, this is literally the way I look at things. If you prep a person to fight somebody who is right-handed, but then the guy comes out and he's left-handed, what do we do, coach? I mean, of course he's going to know how to handle him because he's a boxer and he's fought left-handed. But if he's trained the whole period for the fight for a right-handed fighter and the guy comes out as a southpaw, what we doing now? We switching up. That's what we doing now. And you're probably going to get fired. And you're probably going to get fired. Train somebody for a right-handed fire, and here he comes, and he's a lefty. You know it. You know it. So, just listening to this brother here, and I'm going to let him ride into the next person because I don't know. I'm pretty sure Artist ends up speaking on his own behalf. So we're going to come back from the Supreme Felons, I believe, to Artist in just a minute. You get beat down like Spence. Y'all leave Earl alone. Y'all leave Earl alone.
Standing among diverse communities. By rallying behind the Supreme Felons, we send a clear message that our community values inclusivity, rejects all forms of discrimination. By actively participating in the Supreme Felons initiatives and events, we can foster a sense of belonging and cohesion that strengthens the bonds within our community. Let me conclude.
Please.
Supporting the Supreme Felons is not just an endorsement of an organization. It is a commitment to a vision of a more just, equitable, and harmonious community. By aligning ourselves with the principles of the Supreme Felons, we can contribute to a society where every individual is afforded the same rights and opportunities, irrespective of their backgrounds. Irrespective of their backgrounds. Let us seize this opportunity to stand on the right side of history, to make a tangible difference in the lives of our fellow citizens, and to demonstrate our unwavering support for justice and equality. Together with the Supreme Felons as a partner, we can build a brighter and more inclusive future for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
See, when they do that, we standing on the right side of history. I'm just waiting for Jews and Gentiles and Protestants and Catholics. Come on, man. Standing on the right side of history, that's such a horrible talking point now. I mean, we know people that literally stand on the wrong side of history, of course. All right. They don't want the betterment of, y'all say it, so I'll go ahead and say it, African Americans. They don't want the betterment of Black folks. But that's not the township. That's not what they were there for. They weren't trying to stand on the backs of Black folks and crush their dreams of having a business, pushing our head into the sand as they walk into the promise. Come on, man. Stop that. This ain't the time or the place for that. Take that sermon back to the New Missionary Baptist Tabernacle, whatever it came from, and say it there. This was about a dispatch unit. That's what this was about. This was not about disbanding, relocating, disengaging, dissolving, whatever the word y'all want to use. They weren't trying to get them out the paint. They were just saying they didn't want dispatch in their neighborhoods in the township. And they were going to vote on it, but they didn't end up voting on it because we had a bunch of that. A bunch of that.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Pete Martell. I live over in
They kept messing with the mic. Everybody kept messing with the mic.
It has a green button on it. Just push it down and it'll come on.
Why you mess with the mic? I don't know.
Hello? Check. Yeah, good. Pete Martell. I'm the Deputy Director at American Friends Service Committee right here in Ypsilanti. We're on the corner of Washington and Pearl, which is an intersection where there's plenty of hostility and conflict throughout the day. We hear it up on the 6th floor from our office. I also know this. When I see orange...
That's because it's the bus depot. That's because it's the bus depot. Washington and Pearl. If anybody knows anything about downtown Ypsi, you know what's at Washington and Pearl? The bus depot. And you know who's at the bus depot every single day? A bunch of homeless people. Because Ypsi does not place them somewhere off the street where they can not only be not a danger to someone else, but even themselves. They allow them to dwell at the bus depot. And so, of course, you can hear all types of stuff handling Mr. Martell from your 6th floor office window. But what is Ypsi City doing? Because there's a bunch of vacant spaces downtown. Why can't one of those vacant spaces downtown be turned into a day shelter? So those people don't have to sit at the bus depot. You know, maybe you get some computers in there, you know, and people that are possibly able to get jobs, eligible to get jobs, can be in there to get jobs. I mean, you better start thinking of something because the employment office is leaving or is left, right? I mean, maybe get something down there that could be fruitful enough to where you can take some of those people, if not all of those people, off the street at Washington and Pearl. So is that the Supreme Felon's job? I see the Supreme Felons at the bus stop sometime. Have they just taken over that positioning? That's what they do? They govern over that area? And what happens if there is a fight down there? Somebody does get assaulted. Somebody pulls a blade and slashes somebody. Do they report that to themselves or do they report that to Ypsi City? And now that I know that Ypsi City really isn't, you know, solving crimes or not in the crime solving mode, that it all goes to WCSO, maybe they just call Derek. Maybe they just call Jerry. I'm sure they've got him on speed dial. Or just like the old fashioned way, call 911. Maybe you guys can keep the situation under control until law enforcement does get there and make sure those people that are directly affected in that fracas, in that melee, they get treated fairly by whoever comes to investigate. There's nothing wrong with that. But Washington and Pearl is just not a crime haven. It's a bus depot. And it's where a lot of people who have been marginalized, ostracized, disengaged from society dwell. So let's say it the way we're saying it, not just say it to get a talking point out there.
Down on that street corner, there isn't hostility and conflict. There's conversation and people working things out. And that's because of the work that Billy Cole's done. I'm formerly incarcerated from here in Michigan. I spent 14 years in prison from 1994 through 2008. And I can tell you firsthand the work that Billy did and the reputation that Billy's name carries inside the penitentiaries is that he looks out for people who can't protect themselves. He solves conflict in nonviolent ways, and he has a sterling reputation for carrying that work out inside. And I was so proud that he came out here and was able to carry out that work out here. He's a blessing in this community. Now, in addition to American Friends Service Committee, after I got out, I graduated law school. I've gone on and done plenty of work in education, blah, blah, blah. And in January, I received a phone call from Justice Bolden, who asked me if I wanted a job to come and clerk for her on the Michigan Supreme Court. And it was one of the proudest moments of my life. And 2 days after I started, Justice Bernstein went to the Detroit News and talked about how disgusting it was that somebody with a record who had shot at police could serve in that position. And I resigned because it wasn't a fight I was willing to make. But if we're telling people like Billy Cole that he's not good enough to come into our communities and squash conflict, then to quote Justice Bernstein of all people, this is disgusting. I can't believe we're having this conversation. I can't believe we're trying to get people out. We're going to prevent conflict.
Now, this Caucasian individual stepped to that microphone full-throated in support of Supreme Felons and especially Billy Cole. Wrong as two left shoes. Not wrong because he supported Billy Cole. Not wrong because he supported Supreme Felons. Not wrong because he supports their work down at the bus depot. But he's wrong because he thinks, too, that they're trying to disband Supreme Felons. And he's obviously pretty bright. Sounds like he is pretty bright. Whatever he committed, whatever crime he committed, went inside. I really don't know if people get rehabilitated in the prison system. I've heard too many bad things. Maybe you come out better than others. But one thing that you have to understand is your information is everything. I've learned that. I've learned that all my life. I mean, if you know the product, then you know more than most. This night, he didn't know the product. He was just like the common person that came in, not someone that had been incarcerated, not someone that had been a part of the corrections, not a preacher, you know, not one of the mothers or grandmothers who came and spoke. He actually should have had the information. I don't know how he didn't have the information. It's crazy to me how he stepped to the mic full-throated based on ignorance. What he said was very, very well spoken. But it was the wrong time for it. It wasn't the place for it. Billy wasn't there to get his flowers. He wasn't there to get his flowers, and he was giving them for what reason? It was like it became a Billy Cole banquet just on his speech alone. And I've said many a times, out of anybody, when I look at that group up and down, if anybody's got the credibility out here, whether it be on the inside or the outside, knowing his connections with people all around the state and possibly around the country, everybody don't end up staying in the state when they get out of here. It's Billy. You do 4 decades plus in the penitentiary, you're going to know something when you come out. You're going to have a lot of connections. You're going to know a lot of people. And if you can use that intel for the detail, more power to you. But this night, that's what this night was not about. This night was about a dispatch unit that was put before the township by the county. Derek Jackson, Jerry Clayton, Marvin Gundy, the leaders of Supreme Felons, without the Supreme Felons ever sitting down with the township. And I know that Stan said at the end of the meeting that he wanted to sit down with them. Hopefully that's happened. It's Friday now. Hopefully that's happened, or it's going to happen soon. Because it's a shame that everything's been put in play and all these wheels have been turned in motion and ain't nobody sat across the table from each other. That's ignorant. Ignorant. So listening to him, I heard him, I understood him, but once again, off key. Off key.
And I came here on really, really short notice, and I found out there's a 930-page docket here for the meeting tonight. I'm going to review the resolution, and if this is in fact some personal vendetta that an attorney is carrying out against Billy and undermining the work that we're trying to do here, I will be the one who files the grievance with the Attorney Grievance Commission. Thank you for your time.
See, we've been talking about the blind side, talking about white saviorism. You hear that rousing applause. Once again, nothing wrong with him supporting the Supreme Felons. Nothing wrong with him saluting Billy Cole for his work inside and outside of the penitentiary. It just wasn't that night. It wasn't that night to say it. There was going to be another night. I'm sure there's going to be another night that they can utilize. But for some reason, he was without the intel for the detail that night.
My name is Janet Lewis, and I'm the mother of Artist Lewis. And there's not too much more I can say because everything has been said is correct. I can bounce off of letting you know a little bit about my son. Now, long before Men Like Us and any other group, my son worked with me when I had Reach One, Teach One over in Danbury Green. And he helped me, and so did the police department, Kathy Wyatt, quite a few others, but I never saw anybody that's on this panel there to help do anything in that community. Now, my son, like Thanksgiving, I don't see anybody passing out turkeys and dinners except for men like us and supreme felons. I see people out here doing things. To cook a dinner for 50 people and to have his support, you know, he and I cooked the food. He helped me serve the food. I mean, Christmas time, I don't see anybody passing out backpacks, doing things like that, except for the food that you give out in the can that nobody really uses. They don't even want to pick that food up. And then to be able to talk to the young men out here in the street, you guys can't relate to that kind of stuff, because you're not out there on the street. These young men out here on the street, young, strong black men, I don't know if that's what you're afraid of or not, but you need to reconsider, because when you take them off the street and shut their businesses down like that, anything could happen, because you have a dispensary on every corner that's going to dummy everybody down. When I went up there and tried to talk to those people at the dispensary, they told me, you guys, what are you upset about? You got a liquor store on every corner. I said, we don't have a liquor store on the corner. You have a liquor store on the corner, every corner. And then you put it in a neighborhood to dummy these kids down, so when they get ready to play sports, they're like, stuck, you know. And
Look, man, if Mama Bear comes out to support her cub, I can't say anything bad about that. She's supporting her cub. I get it. Artist is her son. She's supporting him. But once again, this was not Artist's night, but she came out to support. When it gets into talking about the dispensary thing, it gets a little personal for me, because I was in that mix well before a lot of people even knew that there was a mix. Well before 90% of the dispensaries were even in Ypsilanti. When we were doing meetings at Park Ridge to talk about the upcoming situation dealing with potential legalization of cannabis, I was a clipboard holder. I went out and had petitions signed to help for the legalization of cannabis, obviously not knowing what the state of Michigan had in store. Ypsilanti could have very well stopped what has happened to its city. There are dispensaries everywhere now. I mean, what's Ypsi, 4 square miles, something like that? Ypsilanti has dispensaries everywhere. Everywhere. And now I guess the most polarizing one is right there on Michigan and First, which used to be the store, the chicken place, the whatever, because it's right next to a church. It's right next to a church. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth and a lot of contention, I'm sure, about that. But long before that place was given the clearance to become a dispensary, there could have been a lot of work put in play to not only stop that, but limit the amount. But see, there's the people and there's the politicians. There's the people and then there's the politicians. I'm sure the politicians were sold on the idea of how much money that the city of Ypsilanti was going to make off of cannabis. I'm sure they were sold that. I have no doubt in my mind. Every city was sold that. They can lie. The politicians in Ypsi can lie. You know, the county commissioners, they can lie. But I'm sure everybody was sold on how much revenue would come into the city from these entities. So they took it hook, line, and sinker. And from what I know, could have changed, because I'm not a dispo guy. You know, that life is more or less past me. I don't believe there's a Black-owned dispensary in the city of Ypsilanti. Now, if we want to go back in history, Artis was a former owner of a dispensary, I believe, in Sumter Township. One of the first dispensaries before all the regulation, before all the politics got involved. He was actually in the business. It's obviously nothing to speak of today because we're speaking about men like us on the day that we should have been speaking about supreme felons. But he's been an enterprising individual. Can anybody doubt that? He's done multitude of things around the city, around the county, even outside. Sumter's Wayne. But this night belonged to the supreme felons. But who's going to argue with someone's mother who's coming in to say positive things about her son? I got it. I totally got it. But we're missing the message because we're off the topic. And if we're off the topic, why are we there?
Fair. You should give these guys a chance. Just give them some time. You know, they're just learning these things. They don't have a college degree like you guys got. You know, they're trying to make it. They got to eat and feed their kids just like you have to feed your family. And you're trying to take that away from them. One of these days, you're going to need these young Black men to say something to somebody that you can't talk to. Things are going to get out of control. With all these dispensaries, things are going to really get out of control. And you're not going to have anybody out there that can talk to these kids like these young men.
Okay. I didn't know that was her that said. I got confused. I remember the comment being made. When have you heard about people being violent at dispensaries? I know that there's been a few idiots who've tried to rob dispensaries. Crazy thing was those robberies, I believe, happened in Ann Arbor. But she started with the dispensaries are being put up and people are being dumbed down and they're not coherent. And kids can't play sports because they're high. But then now they've become rebellious high-ons who nobody's going to be able to communicate with except Black men. And I don't believe she's actually speaking about supreme felons. She's still speaking about men like us. It got so convoluted and I got lost. But what is it? Are they lost? Are they in a cloud? Or are they going to be hellions? Specifically about cannabis. Because I've never known anybody to be just flat out violent due to cannabis. And I've been around a few people who smokes cannabis. But they tend not to be very violent. I don't know what they're selling over in those dispensaries over in Ypsi and what they've seen. But you'd probably want to get those places shut down, because if you think that a dispensary is more detrimental than a liquor store, we've got problems there too. Because the liquor stores that are in the city of Ypsilanti have literally destroyed lives. And we talk about people giving back to the community. Do those liquor stores give back to the communities? Has anybody ever put pressure on those liquor stores to give back to the community? Any of the businesses. They take their money and they go right off to Dearborn Heights, Farmington Hills, West Bloomfield. They definitely don't stay around here. Some of them do. Most of them don't. The Issas do. You know, they're around here, but most of them don't.
They know. They know that. And I'm just asking you guys to just reconsider. Let's show up at his building. Show up and walk around the neighborhoods with Supreme Felons. Just show up. Let people see your face. Because that's whose face that they're seeing is these young men out here on the corners working with these young men. You know, feeding people, passing out shoes, clothes. I mean, some people don't even have a place to stay in Ypsilanti. They ask him, they live on the side of his building because they don't have anywhere to go. They have mental issues. They come in there, want to talk, want prayer. You know, I mean, are you guys offering any kind of these services? No, you expect the church to do it, but all churches is not doing that. You got to have people out there that's on the outside.
I'm not sure what buildings are meant for prayer other than churches. So I'm so just taken off the grid with these statements because I don't believe Men Like Us was supposed to be used as a prayer facility either. Maybe they do pray there. I don't know. I've never heard about, you know, prayer sessions, you know, whether they be spontaneous or, you know, publicized, but maybe they do pray. Maybe they have prayer meetings, prayer sessions, prayer revivals. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't believe any of those incidents were spawned off of their prayer meetings. I think most of the incidents, I would have to say most, because I can't be sure that all, but I believe that most of the incidents that have happened at Men Like Us probably didn't have anything to do with praying. At least with the A. I can't say anything about the E. If you know, you know.
Church doing things. So I'm just asking you to reconsider. Let these people feed their family and help the neighborhood.
Yeah. Thank you for your comment.
My name is Artis Lewis. As you all know, I'm the owner and founder of Men Like Us. I come here tonight to talk to the board about Artis Lewis because my name is being blasted around like I'm shooting a gun or something. When I filled out this contract with you guys, I stated that Men Like Us will be providing a relaxing environment for men to network, perform, and help with community service and outreach and events. I said services include toys, clothing drives, food drives, feeding the homeless, mentoring programs for growth and development, and provided special events for memberships and people of the community. Now, since everybody wants to talk about gun violence and everything terrible that's happened at Men Like Us, let's talk about some of the good, because that outweighs any of the bad apples in this community that chose to come to my business and do wrong.
So I know that there's probably going to be some other comments that actually supported Artis, but he kind of brought together a collection of events that he's had that, you know, were not of the nightlife fare, which I do believe most of the incidents that have happened at his place have taken place at the night, because we talked about this. We talked about this afterwards. And as I stated to him, you know, if they have an issue with your business functioning the way you function at night, okay, I get that. But why don't you talk to them about the things that you do during the day? And it would also give you the opportunity to still earn, you know, because you got bills to pay, you got kids to feed. And there were people that got up and it said that they had events scheduled to have, you know, to rent his place and do things like baby showers and open houses and stuff like that. So for him to be able to function, that's what I felt like. Maybe if you were going to pretty much barnstormed the meeting because that's what they did, because they weren't on the docket. And if you do something like that, you pretty much barnstorm it. It is what it is. Everybody ain't gonna like it, but it is what it is. I saw it. I was there. For him, I think the most important thing would be to keep his doors open, but maybe just not do any sundown business. And I told him these things. I have no problem with any. Y'all can go back and ask artists. Did I talk to him? I talked to him. I talked to his mother. I talked to the group of people that he was out there with afterwards. Yes, I did. Because I know a lot of people don't like that. They just like to talk randomly, you know. It's like when everybody was up in arms, because I used to just always talk about Nate Frazier, because I talked about Nate Frazier. And I talked about Nate Frazier having an event at Artist's place. Then Artist called me and asked me why I was talking about Nate Frazier. I'm talking about him because he's a pedo. He's a pedo, and he's had an event at your space. So your space gets thrown into the fray because you got a pedo dwelling at your space. And if you don't want that heat, then don't have pedos at your space. You know, Nate's an open book, except when it comes to his pedophilia. So that's his problem, not mine. And being in defense of a pedo, okay, now I look at complicity. If you're going to defend a pedo, you're complicit. My man Smoke, what's good with you, baby? Sunday Night Smoke podcast, checking in. Got the information, man. All these cats got bigger platforms than me. They checking in with me. I appreciate that. My little outfit over here. I just got a little outfit over here, you know. But we gonna do what we gonna do. But I appreciate the fact that, yeah, he came to stand up for his business. It wasn't his night, but he made his space. He did more than Derek Jackson did. He did more than Marvin Gundy did. He did more than Jerry Clayton did, because those three people could have easily got everybody back on course, basically about the business at hand. But for some reason, they chose not to. They chose to either stay in the back or not show up at all. And it went off the rails. And we ended up here.
A health event. Could you pass these out? Oh, everybody should be on page 1 right now. I had a health event that had vaccination and flu shots at my building, which was something positive, and mental health awareness panel at my building, because we don't have no mental health awareness facilities for people to go to and talk about their problems, especially free in the community. Page 2, I did an expungement program at my building for felons to be able to come and get felonies taken off of their record so they can be successful in life. I didn't see nobody in the community doing that, so I jumped in and spearheaded it. The next page, another mental health awareness panel with a lot of people, Alicia Dreyer, Derek Jackson, all of these people were attendants at this mental health panel that we had at Men Like Us. We had a shoe drive for the homeless and pizza party. We gave away over 40 boxes of pizza and over 100 pair of shoes to the homeless. Sat with them and just talked with them throughout the day. How many of you guys ever just did that? Pin drop.
When you're in modes like that, dude, don't poke the bear. I mean, that's just me, though. Once again, just me. When you're there to handle business, don't poke the bear. The whole pin drop thing, man. I mean, you know. And there were other things that were said, you know, and we probably won't even be able to get to them. But, you know, even to the point where, you know, the board was like verbally accosted by someone, I guess, who had spent a lot of time in jail, and basically just said, you know, when I was out here, y'all would have been my prey. I'm like, really, dog? And I looked at Greg and I'm like, oh, that wasn't a good selling point. Greg didn't say shit. But that's not a good selling point. And I'm sure that probably most of the board members were probably not even moved by that. But you got women up there, man. You got women up there, you know. And to know that you got 2 black people that are up there, you got women that are up there. I mean, who are you directing these messages to? You know, because I know you pointed at 2 people that probably got sidearms on them, guaranteed. So why would you talk to people like that? Why would you make that threat? Why would you make a physical threat? Even if you're saying, hey, I would have been at you back in my old life. Are you really rehabilitated, bro? To even be on that plane? To even be on that spirit? Appreciate your information, man. Were you not listening to the one brother who got up and said, read the room? Read the room. I mean, y'all in total dominance as far as the numbers go. Was there a reason to, whether you meant to or not, verbally direct a threat towards someone? How far y'all think you get with that? And I'm not here to protect the township, because that ain't my job. I ain't no watchdog for nobody. But trust me, if I heard it, they heard it. And crazy thing is, they could have easily cleared the room with that. They could have easily took that threat to heart and cleared the room. But they didn't. Because they knew it was idle at best. But yet it was still a threat. And it didn't need to come off the way it came off. So it is what it is.
Sock drive for the homeless. Again, taking care of the ones that can't take care of themselves or who fell down on hard times. It takes a heart for somebody to get up early in the morning and put this program together and go out and help somebody. Here's another one, coat drive for the kids. We gave over 200 coats to young kids within the community. We gave an Air Force One giveaway. We ain't talking about no cheap Air Force Ones. We had colorful Air Force Ones that we gave away to the kids so they can have something nice to walk around in the summertime. A line was around the corner, as you can see. Once again, we back feeding the homeless for Thanksgiving. Sat down and just fellowship with them on Thanksgiving. It's hard around the holidays. People have lost family, lost their homes, which everybody can relate to. Holidays, if you don't have it, it's sorrowful. You want some comfort. So we chose to go to the homeless shelter and do that on the Thanksgiving. Right now, we have a school supply drive where we're giving away backpacks and materials to kids and totes for teachers. We have a skilled trades program that I developed, helping bring awareness to skilled trades to troubled youth within the community. College ain't for everybody. So a skilled trades program could be something that's helpful and beneficial. I have somebody here right now who attended that skilled trades program and is working.
So he's running down his resume of things that he's done. Salute anything positive that has come out of this, but he wasn't there that night. One, he wasn't on the docket. Let's keep focus. I'm gonna try to stay focused because a lot of people lost their focus on Tuesday, and I chose not to speak because I felt like after seeing so much misdirection, who am I to try to actually get us back on course? If the leaders of Supreme Felons didn't get him on course, Derek Jackson, Marvin Gundy, and Jerry Clayton, if they didn't get him back on course, who was going to get him back on course? Who was going to get him back on course? So understanding where he was with what he was saying and it not being his night or his day to speak, his issues with the township aren't based on any of the things that he's had go on during the day. All those things that he's talked about right there happen during the day. His issues with the township and with law enforcement have been nighttime infractions. So even Artis and his supporters were misguided in their delivery, because if it had been his day, let's just say it had been his day, because everybody talked as if it was his day. Let's just say it had been his day. They would have been talking off key because they weren't there to talk about the daytime accomplishments. It's the nighttime exploits that have been going on at Men Like Us.
Where you at, brother? That brother right there. Teaching young men how to tie a tie. A lot of young men don't know how to tie a tie to be dressed for success.
Yeah, old men don't know how to
Who's
tie a
stepping
tie.
up to do that? Men like us. I sat with the corner health department, helped them work on their father-son program. Why? Because I'm a father of 6 kids, and I know how it's hard to be a single father when all of the oppression is against you. What they do, they charge you with a whole bunch of child support, then take half your check, and now you can't even help take care of your kids because you ain't got no money. So I'm helping young men counsel to get through that. Let's see. What else we got here? Washtenaw County Juvenile Department reached out to me to offer children to come through my program that's on probation, for me to mentor, to be able to help them get life skills, to be able to coach them on when they're doing wrong. A positive black male to look up to in the community. My building is open to people who host graduations, open houses. I have a list right now of people that coming to do an open house, and I can't even allow them to come in my building to have their event because I'm closed now. I'm closed.
But he's not closed based on all of the accomplishments and the good events that he had during the day. He's closed based on the things that happened at night. So once again, it's understood why everybody is so confused, because nobody's been given the proper information. And first and foremost, in Artis's case, he wasn't on the docket, but being allowed to speak, that was great that the township allowed him to do so. They didn't shut him down and say, hey, it's not your night. You're going to have another time that you can come in here and speak. See, that would have been racist. That would have been bigoted. That would have been white supremacy acting out. But they didn't do that. They didn't shut off one supporter of his saying, you know what, we're not here for artists tonight. We're here for supreme felons. They didn't do that. So when I kept hearing the bigotry and kept hearing the racist and kept hearing the white supremacy, I'm like, where at? Because I know how big it's at. They cut you off, period. You're done. We're not going to deal with you because it's not your time. They can do that. They can shut you out because it's not your time. You wait your turn. And if your turn is not tonight, then we'll see you next time. But they didn't do that. They let everybody speak. But when you get people up here talking about white supremacy, do you really know what white supremacy is? Do you really know how it affects us? It's not an individual. It's not a collective of people that are on a board. It's a system. It's a system that's working against you, not an individual. Now, I know we've had some individual bigots work against us, but don't get that confused with white supremacy. Big difference.
Because of the acts of people that's in this community that's out of my control. Where's the protection for the business owners? Here me is again, working with Stop the Violence in the community. Two young men just got killed in the community. Along with my organization, we went to the neighborhoods to console and just be out there with the people in the community to show support, because that's what we do. It's a long list. Here's another Stop the Violence rally that we went to talk about gun violence in the community, because that's a top priority for me. I don't want to see young men dying on the street every day. I'm out there trying to talk to them to give them another solution. I'm letting them know that you are special. You are God's chosen people out here. We're not supposed to be treating each other like that. It's times where I have prayed in the midst of a fight in my parking lot. I ain't write that in the report. I have offered special events for people to come and display their talents with karaoke night that's hosted by Coco and Foolish, proud names that's in the entertainment industry, to be able to come in and talk to people. Maybe somebody might want to get off into the industry. They have somebody hands-on that they can talk to. Because I said I was going to do special events in my contract with the city. Special events include Blessing of the Bikes. I have a Blessing of the Bikes every 3 years where people travel all the way from Kentucky to Chicago on a motorcycle to gather for prayer. We had over 300 people in our parking lot outside for prayer. To me, prayer changes things.
What we're not going to do is we're not going to go down the Jesus lane today. Okay, prayer may change things. Okay, I get it. Prayer may change things, but what we're not going to do today is put Jesus on a Harley Davidson. Jesus and a gold wing is not going to happen today on the Villager on Deck. We're going to stay as much as we can. We've been off key all day because the information that's been delivered by most of these people. Look, Smoke, Jesus changes things. You need Jesus, Smoke, damn it. You need Jesus. Find him. And he might be on a Harley, a Goldwing, or maybe a crotch rocket. I don't know. Jesus likes to drive fast. Find Jesus, Smoke. Anyways. I'm gonna let him finish because I want to hear who comes in. Can we get back to the Supreme Felons? I don't know, man. We really on the men like us lane right now.
But I get a report that there's people all over the grass hanging out everywhere. Crowd full. And the last few pages is just some of the accolades that people have given me for my work within the community. So I say to the board, please, until this court thing is over with, because you guys are taking me to court to shut me down, can you allow me to just open during day hours to be able to conduct my business? Because now all the people that have their events scheduled, I have to cancel.
Me too. So this is what I was talking about. This is what I was talking about 4 years ago. So I explained to him that if there was a way for him to be able to get at them, because I don't know if this was who was mandating the closure. I spoke directly to him a couple times after the event. It was like, you need to plead with them to let you stay open in the daytime, because why is this happening in front of his business at night? No, this is not. There's a conflating situation here. His issues have been happening at his nighttime business, where he functions more as a club. The daytime things that he was listing are things where there's been no issues. From what I know, there's been no issues. But he kind of pushed them together. The issue with the county or the township and dealing with that have to do with his nighttime business. It's kind of a multi-leveled industry he's got there. So he's got a mentoring thing during the day, for the kids, but in the nighttime, then, that's where the music cranks up and people come in and do their thing. And that's where a lot of the incidents have happened. Most of them, if I'm not mistaken, all of them, really. But doing good is one thing. Having bad things happen at your business are another. Because as I told him, I was like, you know what? You ain't shot nobody. I literally told him, I was like, you ain't shot nobody. You ain't pulled a gun on nobody. You ain't been taken away in cuffs. You haven't been the instigator of any of the stuff at your place. Nah, it's not. It's not. People that are trying to do that business now, I mean, you've got to be so insulated with security and all kinds of stuff. And you're still going to have craziness because people don't respect the club the way people did back in the day. People can't go have a good time and take their ass home or go to the Coney Island or after hours spot, get them something to eat, maybe something more to drink. They got to do something else. So what does he expect when you have a club that comes along with the territory when you mix liquor and the people together at night? Yeah, but they just got through talking about cannabis. See? You see how they running it together. Liquored up people are always going to fight. People that have smoked cannabis, you know what? They might laugh and giggle. They might, but chances are you're not going to see a real volatile breakout because, a couple people sat around and smoked a blunt. Cannabis has gotten such a bad name for the last 100+ years in this country. I still want to allow people to desecrate the goodness of it because there are so many good things that come from it. Detrimental situations, those are individual situations. Okay. I can give you 10 people that liquor has killed. I can't give you one that cannabis has killed. But his issues have happened when people at night have been liquored up, out of control, and things like that happen. Like you said, it comes with that territory. So you got to be over secure, And I know everybody don't like this, but you know what? Have the hook across the street. If you want to have a clean joint, be like, look, man, I need y'all to roll through on a regular. Just roll straight through the parking lot. Unless I call you, I don't need you to stop. I don't need you to get out. You never heard the term weed muscles? No, I have not. I have not. I've heard liquid courage, but I ain't never heard weed muscles before. That's some shit you made up. That's some shit you made up, Smoke. Weed muscles. Absolutely. Alcohol brings on the drama, man. It brings on the drama. It can't not. That's what it's going to do. I mean, I've been with many people that we've drank and not had any issues, but generally you're going to have somebody that gets out of pocket if they get too liquored up. It is what it is. It is what it is. So let me let him finish. Let me see where we at with it.
The issues aren't in the daytime, they're at night.
So I'm asking if I am allowed to be able to stay open during this process at a reasonable time. We can sit down after this and work out a time that's reasonable for you, but to shut me down to where I don't make anything will hinder my home, my stability, my family, my staff. Please take that into consideration because I have not misled you guys in any kind of way. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Denise Week. This is my son, Guy Boyd. We've been residents of Ypsi Township for about 15 years. In 2021, my son was shot in the head by a ghost gun. And at the beginning of this year, we started an initiative called Life, and we are out there to bring gun violence awareness, education, and youth empowerment to the community. And by doing this, we're here to speak on behalf of Supreme Felons because they have the same initiative that we do. And thank you. Each moment of each day, Guy goes through and has to live with his injuries mentally and physically. The bullet went through his eye. He has an artificial eye, still has the bullets and everything in his head. And we just want to get the word out, and we feel that Supreme Felons can help fight the gun violence. They are trying to turn their experience and into a learning experience and help teach the community to not do what they've done. be in front of a gun and behind a gun. And I'm sure all of you know that there's an epidemic in our country. And unfortunately, Washtenaw County is part of that epidemic. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but according to Everytown for Gun Safety, in Michigan, 81% of homicides involve a gun. That's 81% involve a gun. And it would be better for the two of us, would it be better for the two of us to intrude upon a community that is in despair to go in, or would it be better if we went in with Supreme Felons as a team? Because we can't do.
Look, man. So this Caucasian woman came in to support the felons as well. Hey, they got some support from Caucasian people. I think they had like 5 or 6 that came in full-throated in support. Yeah, it must be you, E, because the audio is still pretty good, I think. So, dude, you're running a nightclub. So I get her points. I hear the statistics. I've heard them all. It's still not what we're here for. We're not here to talk about the gun violence tonight. We're not here to talk about their viability in the hood tonight. This wasn't what it was for. And to be so far off track, and they sat there and let's see, they were told to come. They were told to come blindly, speak thoroughly, but came blindly and had no real information, and they just as ignorant in their commentary. Not saying they're ignorant people, but I'm too far into this now. Y'all know I'm not calling people ignorant. The commentary, when you don't have the facts, when you're speaking, they're speaking about something totally different. Something that should be talked about and could be talked about, but just not today. Just not today. What up, cuz? Appreciate it, Smoke. So I don't want to see anybody do good business. I don't want to see anybody who does bad business do business at all. But I want to see anybody that does good business do good business. Be given an opportunity. I have no idea where his situation is in the courts. I don't even ask about any of that. I didn't care. Don't even know exactly what they're going to be going to court for. Was not my issue. My issue was people not being able to stay on key. And where they wrote it to just the wrong space. So let me see where she goes and who comes in afterwards, and then we're probably gonna get ready to wrap this up. Almost 3 hours, dude.
By ourselves, and they're here to help. So if you close down Supreme Felons, that means who else are we going to have to do it? We want to make a difference in the community, and we just don't know how we can do it. And we just need to put our differences aside, no matter what those differences are. It could be the color of our skin. It could be the differences of personalities. It could be someone did something to someone else. We need to put that aside and think about other people, because a lot of these victims are our children, and we need to protect our children because they are our future. And if we're not there for them, they're not going to be there for what future there may be. Thank you.
Thank you.
just a great, well-intentioned, supportive move. Wrong meeting. That's all. Just wrong meeting. I ain't gonna beat her up about anything else. This ain't got nothing to do about her being white. Nothing. She just wasn't given the information about the reason that they were there. So she spoke what she knew.
I grew up in Ypsilanti. I'm 65 years old. I grew up on the south side.
Is the microphone not working?
I ended up growing up in Willow Run. I graduated from Willow Run.
Okay, we're not gonna do that anymore because I know he was a supporter of artists. He's a Men Like Us guy. Not gonna discredit his commentary, but I just don't need to go there anymore. Where we are right now in this, I mean, I'm 3 hours in. Hopefully you got the point of what went down at the township meeting and where the marks were missed. Once again, the unity, I'll salute this unity the same way I saluted Montgomery, Alabama. I'll salute American Black folks coming together and unified. But damn, y'all came to the wrong meeting. This was the meeting about dispatch, not the meeting to give supreme felons their flowers and talk about their viability. By giving them the right information as to what was in play, they would have sounded so beautiful. They would, and to hear all those collective voices say the same thing the right way, can't say nothing about that. Absolutely, brother. They tried that in a nice sized town. It ain't no small town. They tried that in a nice sized town. Jason Aldean got y'all gassed up and got y'all assed up. That ain't gonna happen no more. Now, I don't think we're gonna have no more of that for the rest of the summer. It's folding chair season. It's folding chair season. So I want people to always be flowing under the right direction. Under the right direction. And when I came in, I played that video showing my full support of the Supreme Felons a year ago. A year ago. And you can see just in a short amount of time that I learned all the bullshit connected to them, not just as individuals, but the leadership, the Derek Jacksons of the world, the Marvin Gundys of the world, the Jerry Claytons of the world. Y'all got to understand, I'm not new to this. And been true to this. And I don't like the whole monkey bullshit. And when I say monkey, it ain't got nothing to do with no ethnicity. You see monkeys going from branch to branch, and this, you know, we say grifting a lot. From thing to thing to thing to thing to swindling. Yeah, same thing. Double check, but I think there's a dispensary that is owned by some brothers that's not from Ipsy. And I'd like to know where it is. I'd like to know where it is. Hopefully you're not talking about Herbology, because that's not owned by brothers. Everybody thinks that Herbology is owned by Chaldeans. I used to supply them with product back in the day. Well, not really back in the day, fucking 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So, yeah, I'd like to know. Now, if you're speaking about the micro spot, I think that's like Arab. There's an Arab and a black guy, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I would love to know if there's an American black-owned dispensary in the city of Ypsilanti. Absolutely. I know we had one that was owned by a mother of the daughter who I think pretty much helped her lose that. It is what it is. People got things to say every time I bring that up, but you know, we know we had one in Ann Arbor that was owned by American black folks. Not anymore. What's up, Tree? So, as we get ready to close out, I have to say, I didn't hear what I needed to hear Tuesday night. And I don't think the board heard what they needed to hear Tuesday night because people came in the wrong vein. Very supportive. And for the most part, they were respectful, outside of the little idle threats and, talking about you'd have been my mark and all kinds. That's some dumb shit. That's clown shit. But I felt like had they just been given the right instructions, if you give people the right instructions, they'll generally do the right thing. They'll generally do the right thing. There won't be a problem if you give them the right instruction. But for some reason, you have situations that come about, and I'm not sure why. I'm not sure exactly why it was a matter of being able to get people there, but not giving them the right information. I mean, I was literally taken back all the way to this moment. I looked at this and I was like, this is what many of the supporters ended up sounding like. Like, remember when like the Evans family's about to get evicted and they ran out of resources and the only way they was going to be able to get the rent money was for James to go out and hustle pool. And Florida went over to the white Jesus. The white Jesus, she made Michael take the black Jesus down. But when they had the white Jesus up on the wall and Florida went over there and she was like, Lord. And she started praying because they was about to get kicked out. And she told the movers, you waited this long, you can wait a few minutes longer. And Michael was like, you gonna make them wait for daddy, mama? And she was like, not the father you're speaking of, son. I'll never forget that shit. I done seen that episode 50 times. And she walked over to white Jesus. And white Jesus is in a situation where I'm live. I'll call you back. I'm pretty sure she knows I'm live because she wouldn't have called right now. So I'm not sure exactly why she would call like that. And I'm not even going to disclose her name. If you can pretty much guess who that would be, I'm not even going to say her name, but that's like some disrespectful shit because I'm live. But anyways, so she got to praying. And then James came in and he had the bread for the rent. So you just seen the best 3-cushion shot in the history of Elmo's Pool Emporium. Nah, it ain't you this time. But when you're off key, you're just off key. Somebody probably told her that I said some shit about her. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I'm gonna call you on your shit. I don't care. I'm tired of being struck as an individual who cares about people doing wrong shit. I care, but I don't care about people doing wrong shit. And I'm going to call it out. I mean, that's just where we are in the world. And if we don't hold each other accountable, who's going to hold us accountable? White supremacy? Whatever. So this has to go. this type of, we're always on the losing end, because this had nothing to do with being on the losing end for the Supreme Felons or even artists. Even though it wasn't artists' night, and he was able to captivate a lot of the night with support. Go into a business meeting, be about the business. Everything ain't about praying, getting down on our knees, making people either feel bad, feel sorry, get mad, whatever. Sometimes business is just business, and that's what it is. It ain't personal. It's business. Literally, business. Be about the message at hand. That's all I've ever wanted to see, is that everybody is about the business at hand. Not no bullshit. And if you can't be about the business at hand, you're going to get left behind. Oh, here we go. You always have something negative to say about me. I don't get it. Like I said, I knew you was listening, so why would you call me on the phone, Trisha? You gonna try to fuck with me on my live? We all trying to get to the same place. No, we're not. No, we're not trying to get to the same place. Why always try to tear somebody down? I knew nothing about Supreme Felons being on the docket. That's the only thing that was on the docket. I showed it because I was asked to, period. I just don't understand all your horrible negativity. Whatever. I don't understand. Someone called you. Okay, fuck them for calling you. And you called me in the middle of my live, so you obviously know I was live. This is bullshit. This is the kind of shit that I try to prevent by explaining everything on the cast. I don't even care that you didn't know. You should have known. You should have picked up a piece of paper and saw when it was going to be Men Like Us's turn. And when you didn't see Men Like Us on the docket, you shouldn't have said shit about Men Like Us. The fuck is wrong with people? Y'all been doing this shit for years now. Hit dogs, holla. I get it. Hit dogs, holla. But see, I wasn't trying to hit no dogs today. I was trying to make sense of a situation that happened a few days ago. And the fact that you played an integral part in it, that's crazy. And if somebody called you, they should have told you that I was fucking live still, or we wouldn't be having this situation. If they called you and said I said something about you, you should have checked to see if I was, or maybe you can't check because you blocked me on everything, so you can't see shit. That doesn't matter to me. You do what you do. I'm not giving you feedback. Clap back, but not feedback. As I was trying to close it out, it was about to try to get to a situation of whether they are or aren't going to work in those specific neighborhoods through dispatch. So I still don't obviously know, because there were 4 hours of public comments and they never got to the business in hand. Be that as it may, 30 days they said they set from that point, and they'll come back and they'll figure it out again. And hopefully in between that time, Supreme Felons and their leadership that failed them that night for not speaking up, Derek Jackson, Marvin Gundy, Jerry Clayton, for not setting it clear well before August 15th, because Supreme Felons shouldn't have met with the board that night. They should have met with the board many a nights ago. And I've talked about that at length for 3 hours. But these last few minutes, it's like I'm rehashing it just for the people who came in late. But feeling marginalized, I get it. Ostracized, I get it. I've been all those things. But this wasn't about any of that. This was a business decision that they were going to come to or not come to that night, and they did not because of the public commentary taking so long. But with all the support, if that support could be directed in the proper way, it would have made so much more of a difference. I love the unity. As I said, I loved it. Loved it. I just didn't like the misguided commentary. But that's not those folks' fault. Those folks were just told to come there and support the supreme felons. And somebody obviously told Tricia to come there and support artists that night. Whatever. She accomplished her mission, and everybody else accomplished their mission. Kinda. It is what it is, y'all. If I was here to be liked, I'd be doing some goofy shit. I'd be saying some goofy shit. But I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to speak the truth. And I always speak the truth. And because certain people don't like me and the way I speak the truth, that's their fault. Because I'm not going to stop speaking the truth. I was very respectful. I didn't say anything negative, degrading, or anything about anybody. That was purposeful. Because I can do that on any stream. Today was about the business at hand and what didn't get taken care of when it could have had the proper people in play took care of business. It is what it is. I don't need a megaphone to be heard. I don't need a microphone to be heard. My message is going to always be the message, and it's always going to be the most well-intentioned, truth-based message, period. I don't need to speak fallacies. I don't need to speak untruths. I don't need to embellish or fabricate. That ain't even me. But stop putting your personal shit inside of business shit. Stop putting the Bible on top of business. There's a time and a place for everything. And that time and that place was for nothing that y'all was doing. Absolutely nothing. Period.
You know, this revolution is filled with so many ironies, really. First, you tell us that it is manly to keep your word, right? If you are a man, you keep your word. And now all of the black people in this country are demanding, and even the black people in the whole world are demanding, is that you keep your word. You told us we were free. Well, then show us that we're free. You told us that there is justice, equality for all in this country. Well, then stick to your word and let us see the justice and equality for all. Or else admit to us that you're not a man. You're a worm. You're afraid of us. You're afraid to give us equal stand. You're afraid that if you give us equal ground, that we will match you and we will override you.
Respect begets respect. Disrespect gets you cussed the fuck out. Peace.